Welcome to the Select Board meeting for Monday, June 9th. Call to order at 6:34 p.m. First item, business review and issuance of the special town meeting warrant.
Two more grammatical changes that the town clerk noted. Article information on Article 1 is the letter A and it should have been the word R. So that's
Yep.
corrected. And
The only thing I have is Article 2.
okay.
In your article information, it's just a typo. It's in lieu. You forgot the I.
Excuse me, gentlemen.
Sorry about that, Otis. Thank you.
So for those listening, there's a typo in Article 1 that was updated, and in Article 2, article information, the word lieu, typo there. And lieu.
Corrected. That was the only thing I saw.
Was there others that you had?
There was one more in Article 9 in the article information. The words "except the" are being stricken. Although this article would authorize the town to designate.
Yep.
Good catch.
The other feedback were on articles that you have removed.
Sorry, Brian, I'm just catching up. You said Article 9, the article information, approval of this article would authorize the town to designate. That's what it's supposed to.
Yeah, there was
Remove
two,
except the.
except the
Yep.
stricken, yes.
Okay, thank you.
The YouTube feed's not live.
Any other changes or concerns?
I have none.
Nope, just those couple of small things.
Yep.
You want a motion?
Yes, please.
Make a motion to approve the special town meeting warrant for Wednesday, June 25th, 2025 at 7 p.m. here at the Senior and Community Center, One Care Drive, as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You printing off those for us to
I
sign?
was going to say, I'm going
To
to do
get
that right
posted?
now while you're continuing.
Thank you.
We have a constable to post.
Appoint local hazard mitigation planning committee members. So we have the Erving Industries, Erving Paper Mills has made their nomination for that seat. I've nominated Eric Whitman, mill manager, to represent and be the, I believe, the last member that we need
That's
to
correct.
appoint, right?
Yep.
Any questions, concerns?
None.
None.
I will make a motion to appoint Eric Whitman to the Local Hazard Mitigation Planning Committee effective June 9th, 2025, with a term ending June 30, 2026.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to jump down to review of the federal fiscal year 21 community development block grant report quarter ending June 30, 2025, and vote to file with the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. Come on up. Just trying to get all those mouthfuls out in
Yeah.
one cohesive.
I can't get them out either. Thanks for having me.
Welcome, Brian.
Brian
Thank
McHugh, Director of Community Development at Franklin County Regional Housing and Redevelopment Authority. Here in 3 items. Thanks for pushing. I thought I was going to be here on at about 7:30. So.
Oh, we'll try to get you in before
Yeah, that's
7
great.
here.
So we just finished up the FY21 Community Development Block Grant on behalf of the town. The town was the lead community along with Northfield and Warwick. It included a housing rehab program. We have completed that. Original goal was to rehab 17 units. We rehabbed 18 in the 3 towns. You'll see that on the breakdown, Erving didn't have as much as some of the other towns. That's just the way it goes sometimes. We have a goal, and we do outreach and try to reach as many people in each of the towns. We did use some what's called program income, which I'll get to in a little bit. Program income is paybacks from previous loans, and we have to put that into the grant and spend that money first. So sometimes it's hard to whittle away at the grant amount for the town when we have program income coming in as we're doing the projects. So I think it was about $50,000 that went in there on top of the 172 to do the 5 units that we did in Erving, excuse me. There's a breakdown of the beneficiaries. I don't know if you want me to go over that. You have in your materials, but a breakdown of who benefited from the program. I can go over that if you want, or we can move ahead on that.
Yeah, just high level for the audience.
Okay, all right.
Units completed in each town.
So we have to address lead paint at any house that's built before 1978, whether there's children living there or not. The money comes through HUD. There's a lead safe housing rule, so we do some level of lead remediation on a lot of these houses. Some of them are exempt sometimes. They've had prior compliance. Some of them, sometimes we're doing things that don't disturb lead paint. So we have a process for some exemptions and then some full lead abatement projects there. So you'll see that there were 7 of them out of the 18 that were full abatement projects. 10 units were occupied by elders. All 18 were brought into from substandard to standard condition. 8 of them were made accessible. 12 of them used Energy Star rated appliances, whether it was or products, windows, doors, heating systems, hot water heaters, all that. We have to put in Energy Star rated products. So those are the highlights right there of the beneficiaries of the project. And let's see. Yeah, these are small print, but you can see
Maybe I'll just summarize. There was 5 units in Erving,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
8 in Northfield and 5 in Warwick.
Yeah, exactly.
That were addressed through that.
And so there were a total of 37 beneficiaries. This is multiple people living in households. So that's the program in a nutshell. It's a program designed to bring houses up to code, basically. And you have to be income eligible, which means you have to be under 80% of the area median income. So we'll go through the whole process of qualifying people, doing the work write-ups on these projects, writing the specs, putting them out to bid, getting the bids, and then overseeing these projects to the end. So, any questions? I can
Any
answer them.
questions you guys have?
I do not.
All right. So that was item 1. Is there a motion?
It's up to you. See, I just see someone needs to sign, or Jacob, you have to sign the
Yeah, probably
the
more.
cover letter. Yeah.
More for my peers
I'll make a
here.
motion to approve the
Thank
final quarterly report for the period ending June 30th, 2025 for the federal FY 2021 Community Development Block Grant Program, and to authorize Chairman Smith to sign any and all documents necessary to close the project.
I will second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
The next thing we have is a program revision form. There's a little bit of money left over in the program. We need to close it out. We're asked, is $44,654 in there that we had, asked for it to be transferred into from the rehab loans into the admin costs. We feel like we've run this program for 3 years now, and The original target was 2 years. We did rehab one more project, and 8 of the 18 were waiver projects, which means that we had to make an appeal to the state to exceed the loan caps on those. Those are larger projects. They take a lot more time, and either we just don't draw this money, the town doesn't, or it gets transferred to admin for us. So there's not, so that's our ask, basically.
Questions, comments on that?
No, I don't have any concerns with the request.
I will make a motion to approve budget revision request number 4 to transfer uncommitted 4C housing rehabilitation funds in the amount of $4,654.44 to 4A program delivery, and to authorize Chairman Smith to sign the request.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great, thank you.
And then
Sorry.
hold on, 1 sec. That topic is a separate one. Review and approval of the federal, wait, that was, we skipped those a little bit.
Mhm.
Okay, so that was the review and approval of the federal FY21 community block grant. Budget revision number 4. The vote to file was the last one, and then we have the
Multi-year.
multi-year, yeah. So review of the memorandum of the multi-year agreement with Franklin County Housing and Redevelopment Authority for the administration of the housing rehabilitation program. That's number 3.
Right, and so Scott and I and Brian and our executive director Gina Gavoni met last month. We have an agreement with the town. We've had one since 2013, I believe it, or 2012, 13. To run a housing rehab program that is funded through what's called program income, which is paybacks from previous loans that were given out in the town. Right now, there's about $1.6 million in housing rehab loans that we've loaned through the years, starting back in 1984, that are still outstanding. The agreement we've had with you is to reloan that money at a rate of, we get a percentage on this. As the money comes in, we're able to reloan it back out to eligible homeowners in town. We've been doing this for a number of years. As I said before, when there's a current grant that's open, we have to put that money into that grant and spend that money first. So it gets depleted over time, but 1.6 million is a fair amount of money for a small town to have out there in loans. We're looking to sort of renegotiate the agreement. There's rules around program income. I won't get into the weeds too much, but basically, in a nutshell, if a loan comes back within 5 years of when a grant closed out, it's automatically considered program income, and it has all the rules, the community development block grant rules on it. If it's been over 5 years, like right now, we're closing out the FY21 grant. There'll be an exact closing date that the state will set. It'll probably be a few months from now. They have to go through a whole closeout process themselves. And then from that date, anything that comes back within 5 years of that date that originated in this block grant is program income, and we can reloan it out again for you, but it'll have all the rules around it. This community development block grant rules, which means we have to bring a house up to code, we have to do lead paint abatement. Several things go into that, and we're looking to maybe sort of have a two-part program where anything that's considered program income, we'll do it as we've been doing it for the last 12 years for you. But if it's not considered program income, it can be discretionary funds, and there are options that the town has. You could get all that money back, as it came in. That's one option. The other extreme is you can put it all into the revolving loan fund and loan it out with all the CDBG rules on top of it. Or you can go into a different fund that we're looking to establish, which is just a home improvement loan fund, where if someone needs some accessibility stuff, or if you want to just address emergency repairs at houses, or you want to have a program that is a grant program for elders, let's say. There's some options. You can do what you want with it. We would be the stewards of your money still, and as we loan it out, we take a percentage in order to pay ourselves to do the work. But it could be a higher income level even, it can be up to 100% area median income. So it's like we're proposing this as, there's a draft contract in here. Really, the meat of it is at the very end of it, the housing, the loan program. I think it's Appendix E. And I'm not asking you to sign any of these right now, but it's just like, this is, we can create a loan program that has the same terms of current existing CDBG funded programs. We can do it where part of it goes away over the course of 15 years or 10 years, however you want to do it. So it's really open. It sounds crazy, but it is discretionary money. And some towns, we have an arrangement where, when that money comes in, there's nothing tied to it. In other words, it's discretionary. Then some towns get half of that money back and dump half of it into the fund, to reloan. It doesn't have to be that way, but we could decide on a percentage that could go into could fund other things in your town. Or we do have like a town like Montague, as an example. They take the money that is discretionary money and they put it into their own fund. They call it the CDBG discretionary fund, and they use that money to fund some projects that would normally be considered CDBG eligible funds. But not, it would just, like, they could, if they needed to pay a heating bill at the Shea Theater, they can pull it out of there without going through a whole process. So there's some, you get a lot more latitude with this, and we do find that oftentimes, because when we're in it, running a grant for you, a current grant, or we're using revolving loan funds that are considered program income funds, then, we'll go into an elder's house and have to do a lead paint inspection, and next thing you know, we're turning it into, they've come to us for a roof, and we've got a $80,000 lead project on our hands, and they're like, I don't really care about the lead here, and I don't want to skirt around lead stuff, but it's, anytime there's a child under 6 years old at a house, we would still want to de-lead that property. I would resist some change if it wasn't that, unless we're doing some work that doesn't disturb lead paint, but I still would want to follow those rules if there's children under 6 years old. I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you right now, and again, I'm not looking for a decision on this. I can come back in a few weeks if you want, after a discussion, to sort of nail down what you're looking to do, if you wanted to do this at all. We could just maintain the status quo. It would, and run the revolving loan fund like we have been running it. It's just that we feel like we do get into situations sometimes where someone just needs a hot water heater or a boiler or something like that, and we can go in and say, yeah, we'll fund that. We also did discuss, Scott and I and Brian and Gina Gavoni from our office, about maybe doing a pool, like some kind of pool where it can be opened up to owners in residents in town, and have a sort of a deadline to get in applications. Because right now, in the revolving loan fund, you have about $94,000. That's in addition to what's in the FY21 grant. We have some money that came back as we were getting towards the end of the grant cycle, so we didn't post it in the grant and have to do another project or two. We're reserving that in the revolving loan fund to loan out to other people in town as they come forward. I lost my train of thought there. But we could still run it that way if you wanted to. I just feel like this will give us a little more latitude to address, and possibly address more people, because we're not doing gigantic projects.
Yep. So, yeah, I think 3233 and Appendix A is really kind of the meat of what you're discussing about the options that we have.
Yeah.
Any questions? We definitely need time to review, as you said, and discuss it, and kind of, absorb all of that. But anything you guys have for questions right now?
No, I was at the meeting. I was just going to say, I had the luxury of having the conversation with you. These two have just saw it, Saturday for the first time. So they've had a couple of days to read a very lengthy proposal.
Yeah,
so,
I know. I realize
need some time to digest it as a group. Probably come back at one of our future meetings and ask our questions.
Is there a
Yeah, we could-
timeline that we have on this at all right now? Any kind of deadline or timeline?
No, I mean, we've been operating, I mean, the Brian's looking at me.
Expired, what,
Yeah,
a while ago?
but what's
Okay.
happened is that because we had this FY21 grant going
Yeah.
during the time when the revolving loan fund contract expired and we extended it, it really didn't matter because we had anything that came in had to be posted into the grant already. So it wasn't like we were running the program outside of the grant, which we're going to need to do now. So it's sort of
As of about
yeah,
15
no, I
minutes
mean,
ago.
there's
of
nobody
just now.
there's nobody lined up, like, we're not closing a loan tomorrow or anything,
Right,
you know? We could just, I mean, I don't know, do you have the end date on that, Brian, for the extension that we did? I think it doesn't
It's
really matter
expired
right
as
I
now.
was gonna say, we're beyond that
Yeah,
extension
we're
already.
well beyond that.
My goal would be to have this done this month, and I've already sent it to your attorney for feedback.
Yeah,
with
I
the
mean,
goal
my
that we could bring it
suggestion was
back
gonna
on the
be, can we
23rd.
bring it back on the 23rd, you know, take a couple of weeks with it?
Sure.
See the actual language. I've
that.
seen the proposal already, but it would be nice to get a couple more weeks to really,
Yeah, and,
for sure.
yeah, I could do that. I can come back and we can discuss any,
Yeah.
you know, and so we nail it down and we just know what you want, and then we can incorporate that into an agreement that we can present it, you know, at another meeting, you know, but, yeah. And I could send out something that sort of is a summary instead of this big document here, because honestly, a lot of this is just what the old agreement said, you know, how we run the program. It's really, again, the Appendix E is where the change happens. We did change some language, just so you know, in the revolving loan, if it's program income, then in the old days, it was the loan terms were towns had an option to have a full 100% payback. That's the way it used to be up till 2009. There was we lend you money from this program, it would be deferred payment, meaning that it gets paid back when it sells or transfers ownership. It would be at 0%, but the whole amount was due. And then there was this period where half of it went away, and then starting in 2020, all of it goes away. So in other words, over 15 years, the loans go down to nothing. That isn't our policy, it was a state policy. And what they want to see is any programs you're running, whether they're new grants or they're revolving loan grants, then you have the same terms as they're running in that you know, any CDBG funded projects they have the same terms across the board, you know, and that could change. Right now it's 100% payback. It'll go, and we're forgiven. They're forgiven 100% over 15 years. That might change in 10 years. I don't know. But we just cleaned up that language so that it's in concert with the way that the program's running in the state at any time. So,
Makes sense.
yeah.
Did you have any questions up front?
As God said, I'd just like some time to read through it, digest it,
Same.
and comprehend. I mean, I
Yep.
looked at it about 4:30 this morning. Was the first time I had a chance to
No,
look
that's
at the
fine.
packet.
Yeah,
so-
I know. So that's why I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't expect
So
that you're going to vote on everything tonight. It's just sort of give you a heads up. This is happening, and I can come back in 2 weeks and we can discuss it further.
Yeah, we'll carry it for the 23rd.
Yeah.
Discuss it further. If any of us have any questions in the interim, we'll send them over so you
Great.
have them, and we can have those answers to
Sounds
discuss when we get back.
All right. Great. Thank you so much.
Good. Thanks,
All right,
Brian.
yeah.
thanks, Brian.
The flags are on the signature pages for the warrant. So we'll take just a minute, let you finish that so that he can, you too. Yes,
Just waiting
but
for that clipboard.
I know you are. Hey, hang on, Brian, 1 second. There's a few things in there. We'll wait a moment for you to get that stuff. Everything should be in there for all three.
That way we get it before 7.
That's the goal. Yeah, it's close. A minute to 7:10. Should have waited. He didn't come back with them quick as I thought he would. And then I got distracted by 3 topics. All right. Yeah, let's see. Next. going to pass over review of the Civic Plus proposal.
Okay. You want to get rid of the easy stuff?
Sure, do you have one in mind?
Treasury warrant? I mean, it's right in front of us.
Yeah, go for it.
You know?
Yeah, no, that's right. You're right.
Make
I
a
thought
motion
you were going
to...
to say something else.
No, just get that one off the thing so we don't
fine.
forget it,
It's all good.
down at the
It's all
bottom.
good, yep.
Make a motion to approve the 25th accounts payable warrant for fiscal year 2025 in the aggregate amount of $120,625.15 as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And as authorized, I have approved the following payroll warrants with payment date of June 5th and am reporting on those actions. The 24th payroll warrant for FY25, aggregate amount of $223,919.32, and the 24th payroll benefits warrant for FY25 in the aggregate amount of $36,404.39.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
What's your next easiest?
Probably not. Not one that's short. Maybe easy, but not short. I guess we could go with, let's do the review and potential vote on the FY26 water use rate. Pete, come on up. So our current water rate's $5.40 per thousand.
Mm-hmm.
There's a typo there on that second one. Just looking at the comparisons between the 540, 545. Brian, just to catch you up, I'll let the group know we're going to skip Civic Plus and pass
Thank
over
you.
for this week, and we did the treasury warrants.
Thank
And,
you.
Review and vote on the water rate is where we are now.
Got it.
And the recommendation is to move it to at least 545 per thousand
Yes, please.
for FY26.
That's correct.
And I think there's a typo in the
Yeah,
total
typo.
on the 545 there.
Yeah,
That's the,
the total
that's the one
shouldn't
I
be
was.
10,000. It should be 110,000.
I believe
860.
that would be more appropriate.
Yeah.
Yes. What is with me? Yes, 110,860.
So about a $600 increase in the budget.
Correct. Our gallons year over year,
Mhm.
we had an anomalous year that was low and the next year spiked, but if you average the two, it comes back down around the 14 million gallons a year.
Okay.
So we haven't seen large shifts. So yeah, that 5-cent change usually equates something around $600.
Yeah, that's not right. We probably want to recalculate that number
Yeah.
because it's not 110,860.
No, I was
more
sitting here
like-
looking at it, trying to do the math
It's
in my
more
head.
like 111. It's not. I mean, we're not talking tens of thousands of dollars here, but that's not quite right. Just for our clarity on what the number is.
I was quickly going 78, 21, 10, trying to add it up
I
myself.
know.
going,
I
I don't
It's
know.
just like trying to do it quickly, and it's not. I'm thinking like 110, 950, 27, or something in that range.
I just did it again and got the same result.
I was gonna say, yeah.
110, 860. All right, maybe it's me.
Well, the only number that varies is the gallon estimated usage, so if you multiply that by the additional, yeah, it goes up 78, 395, 27.
Yeah, no, it is accurate. It looks off when I was
Okay.
trying to do quick math. I was with you.
I was getting nervous over here.
No, no, no.
Don't be nervous. It's just a few cents. We'll be okay. I promise. Who trusts me to do math anyway? I'm not really sure.
I was wondering why you
All
trust
right,
me to do it.
That's the issue. Hold on a second. There is still an issue somewhere in these two grids because the difference is not 5 cents higher at the same rate. That's my problem with it. It's $719 increase, but it's not. So maybe it's the 77,676 at 540 that's the problem.
Maybe.
Nope.
77, 676, 051.
You're over 2, Jake.
Okay. Oops.
Unless you want to round up and it's 06. not
No,
05.
I'm gonna stop asking about numbers tonight because clearly,
I don't know.
not working
No,
for
no,
me.
Jake, I'm going to go with you.
where is it?
The total is wrong.
The total. Okay, something is wrong.
The total is wrong. It is not 110, 231.
Thank you. Because it's the difference of 719.22 between the two. It should be, and I don't. So it must be just the total then. Both totals had typos. First one was just missing. It was wrong, and the second one has a missing one. Is that what I'm seeing?
110, 141, 05.
Yep, there it is. Somewhere in there, it just seemed like something
that really
wasn't
is
adding
one.
to 5 cents at 14 million gallons between the two. So, anyhow,
So we'll fix that as well.
just because we're used to the penny, down to the pennies. Anyhow, so at least 545, which meets the operating budget approximately.
Yep.
Questions, concerns, thoughts?
No concerns with it.
That left us a little bit of capital improvement savings in that number two for this year's budget.
This is the first year that you've intentionally budgeted for capital.
Right.
So it puts about $13,000 into your fund.
Yep.
So better than,
Better than 0.
yeah. I mean, about better than 10%.
Yeah.
So that's something. I was just thinking about whether that rate is the right number. We weren't, but we are. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
I agree.
Think it's good at 545?
Sure.
Covers it without trying to do a money grab. You know?
Right.
I mean, it's-
Yeah.
We don't need
balance.
To get, yeah. We don't need to get a little overzealous with it. I think the 545 works.
Okay. Good with it?
I'm good with it. I'll make a motion to set the fiscal year 2026 water use rate at $5.45 per 1,000 gallons effective July 1, 2025.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. At least informationally, and I haven't caught up today, so I don't know what the costs were, so maybe it's not more than that, but Pete, do you want to give us a quick update on what happened with the well pump?
Sure. Basically,
This is unexpected business, just for everyone, issues we had on Friday morning
yes.
that occurred with the well pump.
So Friday morning, June 6th, we lost power right around 6:15. Came back on quickly, then probably like within a minute or two, it went off again, come back on quickly. Did it 2 times. I thought it was 3, but it was 2. So basically, the slamming of the power coming back on and off, the good thing is a couple of surge protectors that we had at the well did go off and protect some of the instrumentation, but we lost our VFD. It burnt up, it got fried, and then we also lost a section of our emission panel, which we're bypassed now, we're charging it, so it's working, we are getting alarm coverage, but there's that, the VFD, the emission panel, and a couple of surge protectors and really funky fuses need to be replaced so we can get back up and working under normal conditions.
So we had obviously emergency assistance on Friday to get back to manual
Correct.
function. Did we get estimates today? I didn't see them if we did.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
they're in there.
emailed them to everybody.
Okay. I haven't had a chance to look through much of it today, so roughly what are we talking total?
Total, 85, 83 and change. 8,583. Sorry.
$85,000,
Yeah, not
$85.
Yeah. Not
No.
85,000.
Where's the decimal?
No, it's
Okay,
it's
80 about
Now, where's the
8,500.
comma? That's what we
Well, I was looking only for decimals, no comments.
so if we just replace what was destroyed and blown, you're talking $7,287. But the gentleman that we normally use for all this, he recommended there isn't one for the building. There's one on the outside, but I'll have to check with Eversource if it's valid. It's a surge protector that'll protect the whole building. He did add into he broke the quotes for the parts separately in case we wanna opt out on anything. So the $8,583 is to do the one additional thing. He's suggesting putting a whole building surge protector on the inside. The cost for that with installation, everything is $1,296.10, which is, if it does its job even once, it's a lot cheaper than replacing that VFD again.
And so is that at least the recommendation is that putting that in might help prevent us losing the equipment we did? Because
Yes.
obviously we had some blow, but not enough to actually save everything.
Correct.
Okay. And we don't know yet about insurance coverage or not for that?
They're filing the claim tomorrow.
Okay. But we don't know if it'll be covered or not at this point?
Yep.
Budget, do you have it in your operating right now to cover that for the rest of this year?
I have to look at the newest printout from Deb. I think we do.
Okay. And does that include what Friday's costs were? The $8,500 doesn't include that.
It includes everything, installation and that added bonus for the surge protector for the whole building.
Yeah, I
But
think
what
he's
about
talking
your cost for
the-
Friday for
the
the
service
emergency
call.
service? Was that
No, it's not
rough?
included.
Okay. Do you know what that is yet or no?
No, I can find out tomorrow.
It'd just be good to know what that is too.
Okay.
And these numbers, the 85 does not include mission, correct?
Includes the 400 for the new mission
But
circuit
not the
board,
labor.
but not the labor. I can't imagine that would take much more than a half hour tops.
Okay.
By mission or by Renault?
I have to order, what I'll do is I'll order the circuit board, they'll send it to me quickly, and if it's a go on any of this, I'll make sure we have it on hand when he comes out, because he's gonna have to order the VFD. So we'll have everything all together when,
So he can do all of always there.
yes, I mean,
Okay.
he does our mission stuff.
Oh, he does?
Oh,
Okay,
yes.
I didn't realize that. Okay,
Perfect.
got it.
I mean, I
Alright.
think if the cost of the service call on Friday and the additional funds that you've already talked about, if you're able to cover them, I mean, I would say we do them. The only caveat would be working with Maya of whether or not it would have to be a, reimbursable, or if they would just file the claim, I think just asking that question because it's not really an emergency at this moment. It's time sensitive, but it's not an emergent need that has to be done tomorrow, or in the next 2 days.
No.
If Maya has any stipulations on the claim related to payment.
Right, whether we can proceed and get reimbursed.
Correct. Or if we have to wait for funds and
Right,
have them
if they
do it
determined
direct, if
it,
they've got to
yeah.
cut checks direct,
But
that
we
kind of
definitely
stuff.
can't have them repaired until they've had an opportunity if they want to look at it and things like that too. so
Correct.
We have to give it at least a few days to see what they say.
That was my only concern, is just wait to hear back from Maya first. If they give the green light and say, yeah, go ahead and repair it, and we don't have an issue, here's what your claim would be like, and here's the amount that we think based on your policy, sure.
Right.
You know.
As of the end of May, you have a balance in ordinary maintenance of $20,370.
So plenty to cover it.
Well, then that
And
forgoes
we're-
the need to come up with other options that I was going to propose if insurance doesn't cover it.
Right, and we're able, like I mentioned before, we can run it in hand, so it's manually on,
Yeah.
manually off. If we keep it in between the two level set points that we have when we're operating normal, put it on in hand, come back in about 2.5, 3 hours, and we're back up to where we want to be for levels.
So if it's not covered, we still want to do it and
Yeah.
do it with the additional
Yes.
surge, right?
Yep,
Absolutely.
agreed.
So,
Excellent.
I absolutely agree too.
Yeah.
So
I think the only thing for me is just waiting for Maya, just to give their
Do we have
2
a-
cents on the claim portion of it, just to make sure they don't want to do an inspection or anything like that
Mhm.
first.
Sure.
Do we have a time frame on when Maya would be responsive to this, or?
They're usually responsive within a day. So
they're usually quick, right?
Yeah.
And I'll go over that tomorrow with Bets.
Do you know lead time on any of the equipment from them?
Do we normally what?
Do you
Lead
know
time.
the lead time on any of the on the equipment?
The VFD, the gentleman I spoke to who came out, he said they could probably get it in less than, say, 3 days.
Yeah,
He says
that's
on the
not too
high
bad.
end.
Okay, then
And,
not worried about
and
it.
with the
No.
mission circuit, I'll just tell them they can overnight it.
Okay.
You know, if we need it
Yeah.
that quick. But they have that on shelf.
Okay. Yeah, I was just gonna, if it was a long lead time, we could potentially say, go ahead and get it going, because one way or another, we're doing the project, but
We could
it's
probably
not
wait.
long lead time, so I wouldn't worry about
I
it.
was gonna say, we'll probably have Maya back Wednesday, Thursday at the
probably
latest
before
if they
that.
had a snafu, and then put in the order on Thursday or Friday and
Yep.
go from there.
Do it the following week.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, I've got a plan.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you.
Discussion with the fire chief regarding the fire department original daytime staffing proposal and current state. Chief, welcome.
Got some nice handouts for you guys too.
Excellent. I like handouts.
I don't like paper, but I like the gist of it.
Well, short and sweet, I covered the 2 pages.
Well, it's all right.
Information is king.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, chief.
Appreciate it.
So wanted to get together, I know various different conversations hinted at during budget seasons and such about kind of where we started this endeavor in, 2017, I guess it was, when you first proposed
2017.
it. And kind of brought it to the voters, went to daytime full staffing, and then obviously we just approved adding another member in 26. So in retrospect, kind of what had been envisioned back then, how has it changed, evolved, progressed to where we are today, and then kind of just some open dialogue about where's it going and how we feel about that, right? Just kind of that
Sure.
catch up. It's been,
So,
geez,
I
8
think-
years.
I think the highlight of it is so in 2017, that was our first year full-time, and we weren't truly capturing all of the data for the requests for services that we were providing as a department that wasn't there while we didn't have daytime staff covered. So 2017, our call numbers are about 186 versus we closed out last year at 381. So it's about a 50% increase, 51% increase in call volume across the boards. I pulled the numbers from the system today, so currently we're sitting at 168, and we're at the beginning of the month. So we've done just about what we did in 2017 in 6 months. So we're still on track to stay in that ballpark. And I know when we did that, there was a lot of discussions about the shared time in between the 2 stations. So I did pull the numbers, and we've been tracking those since 2017 on the call volume based out of both of those stations. And it's about 50% more coming out of this station, number 2. I do have we do annotate them broken down in their response, in their respective response zones. The only thing we did change is when we dropped AMR and came on board Northfield to make it easier for the dispatchers and the ambulance companies. We moved the dividing line from, I think it was right around 80, 82 Old State Road. We pushed it all the way out to the end of Old State Road. So Northfield's coverage district is all of this and all of Old State Road. Orange covers everything up to that point. So that may have been a little shift. I think we have a bigger population on this. If you look at it, I think the population's a little bigger on this side of town, but it's about 50% more calls on this side of town than it is on the other. And obviously our mutual aid requests have skyrocketed too since that time frame. One of the big issues for the fourth person was the OSHA laws getting signed in. OSHA demands that we have, if we're going to make entry into IDLH conditions, it's a 2-in, 2-out rule. We were running 3 people or waiting for the fourth person to roll in on that in order to meet the laws. Obviously, during a structure fire, if people were stuck in there or needed to be rescued, we're going to do what we have to do and face the consequences after the fact. But this gives us the four people, so we meet the 2-in, 2-out rule for OSHA and best best operating practices through the NFPA. There's been a revision with OSHA as of this year. I know they're still hashing out, still in the public comment phase, and I know they're discussing it. So OSHA just wants to go and recognize that NFPA will be the standard for it. So before it was NFPA was the standard. It was really only a CMR or a law if the legislators adopt it. Like we do adopt NFPA 1, which is the fire code prevention stuff. All of the other ancillary stuff as far as replacing vehicles, that stuff is left up to the communities. OSHA is going to pretty much adopt most of, well, that's my feelings. They're going to adopt most of the NFPA guidelines as the OSHA documentation, which that's the big fight clear across the country right now is the cost that it's going to generate to some of these departments. When obviously we're not putting a huge amount of miles or hours on some of our trucks to replace them every 20 years. Doesn't make financial sense, especially at the cost of them. So in anticipation on that, we've also done an extensive study into what we currently have for equipment, what the cost would be if we were going to replace it new versus when we purchased it. Obviously, we had that conversation with the capital improvement plan, a 1989 truck. I can't tell you what we paid for that truck back then. I just can tell you now it's about $900,000 for that new truck. So obviously that begs a huge conversation on how we operate, how we replace vehicles moving forward, and where we need to be in the town. So I've taken a big look at that and decided if we spend a little extra money, start building multi-purpose trucks with more water, a little bigger pumps on it than we were used to putting on there. So we've transitioned from 1,000 to 1,250 gallon per minute pumps on the trucks. We're going to start pushing those up to 1,500 gallon per minute pumps on the trucks and try to get at least 1,500 to 1,800 gallons on these. So we're moving bigger water. We'll have more water on site and still have. We can reduce the fleet, maintain our ISO ratings in the town. Because we're still moving just as much water on the road as we would be just with less amount of vehicles. And then some of the other aspects of it with the heavy rescue, replacing that with a smaller, more maneuverable F350, F450 type of vehicle with a utility body on it. The maintenance costs on those are a lot less. Switching over to gas, which is a little easier on the emissions, a little better on the maintenance as far as the emissions exhaust that's going into the new diesels. I think looking at it, so we have 5 Class A pumpers in the town right now. We've always had that many. And I'm not a huge fan of saying that we need to replace them because we've always had them. So we did take a good look at how we can retrofit that down and do it. Engine 1 and 2, those are both on the other side of town and fairly newer apparatus, less maintenance on those. So I don't see those coming due for another 10 years maybe, unless we start having huge maintenance costs on them. Engine 8, and 5 are on this side of town, and 3, the last truck that we purchased in 2014, 2015. It's only got 500 gallons of water on it, still got a 1250 pump on it, but we set that up to be more like a heavy rescue crash truck for the highway in case there's a vehicle fire in an accident where we'll have water on wheels there also, followed up with the bigger trucks, obviously. We like to use the bigger trucks as blockers out there on the highway with the traffic. It seems to protect us bigger. So that would afford us to, when we have to replace the heavy rescue, instead of looking at $400,000 or $500,000, I think we can get into a utility body, F350, F450 type of truck for, I'm figuring less than $100,000. We'll do most of the work in-house to light it and do all that stuff. It would just be the cab chassis and replacement of the body. One of the things that we have done since then is, so we've purchased, and we've had a couple iterations on reporting software, which actually allowed us to capture more of our training records, which helped us bring our ISO rating. So when I took over, our ISO rating was a 5. We managed to get it down to a 4, and we missed the 3 by a couple of points. Asked a few questions if we could buy a ladder truck with that, helped us, because we get no points for having a ladder truck. Both are mutual aid. Ladder trucks are outside of the coverage district. Financially, I can't justify saying that I need a $2 million ladder truck to gain 2 points on an ISO rating. We have enough of them around us. They are on our alarm card. So, and those departments are more than willing to come in and help us out with stuff. With the full-time staff, a lot of the basic routine maintenance isn't getting farmed out anymore. It's getting taken. The guys are taking care of it right in-house. The daytime staff coverage, because I've noticed a huge increase over the last couple of years. Last year we ran about 53 overlapping calls, so multiple calls at the same time, and for some reason we got hammered this weekend on them. It was a bad weekend for us. Currently we're sitting about 17 for this year. So I feel like we're on track to be in that 50-ish that 50-ish call times. And I will say that currently 69% of our calls are medical calls in nature. So having the 4 people allows us to split them up and send them to each different one.
I have one question.
Sure.
The only question I have is, and I don't expect you to have the information at the tip of your tongue, but how many are after hours?
Outside of the day
Out-
staff.
Oh, I don't.
Outside of the day staff.
I didn't, those are the only, I looked at them today, those are the only numbers I didn't pull. It seems like, I want to say between 2 and 4, for the year, it's like 5 or 6 calls, and then starts to pick up at 6, and then starts to wane off, probably about 7 or 8-ish. But we still get those few in between 8 and 11 or 12 in there, with a few medical calls in there.
But I think from if I'm following, or maybe
If
I
the
have
vol-
a
the
related
volume.
question, but what's the volume in the day staff hours that we
Yeah, the volume
that
is
we
definitely in the day
schedule
staff hours.
versus
That's
the
what
rest
I'm
of
looking
the
for.
time?
So
how
of
many
the-
calls are in your Monday through Friday?
I can get the
You know,
exact number, but
yeah,
I can
if
tell
you
you
get 'em for
the
us.
bulk of them are Monday through Friday during that daytime.
That's what
coverage.
I just wanted to be able to, see how many out of that,
381.
381 were in 2024 happened during daytime hours.
Yeah, I can get those for you.
Yeah, that'd be great. That was the only piece that I was curious about. The rest of it all made sense to me. And I appreciate you looking at not just the staffing and the overlapping and all of that, but the future capital, which is going to be, depending on what OSHA does and
Yeah.
pushes down the line. could
Well,
be-
I mean, even regardless of that, with the cost of the trucks, I don't feel like it's financially prudent to the tax base to just replace trucks because we have them.
Yeah.
I think that we need to look at it in a smart sense and do we truly need it? The one caveat is I have 4 new applications on the desk right now. We're just waiting for them to send them through. So we've generated some interest in the department. So we'll see how hopefully that works out for us. And
For the call force.
Yep, for the call force. As you know, we're currently going through the hiring process for one more full-time staff member. Hopefully, I got my fingers crossed for a July 1 start date, but
Nice.
at least in July sometime.
So, thank you for the data. I love data. And with the station breakdowns with the calls, for the 2024 numbers, that 381, is there a way to find out what the response time is from, say, the call from Shelburne Control to on scene?
Yes, I believe there is.
Can, maybe for my benefit, be more specific, on average per
It'll give me an
side
average.
of town,
Right.
or what are you looking
Just
at?
to understand what the response time is, where, if vehicles, and I guess what I'm trying to drive at ultimately is, a lot of the talk was around how the stations were manned, and I can see the justification where Station 2 has a majority of the calls, but our Station 2 calls are people in need of a medical service getting attention at 5 minutes, and people from Station 1 zones getting attention at 8 or 9 minutes.
I can tell you, so before we switched over to the new reporting software, it gave us the specific data from time of tone to turnout time, and we had dropped that down. I want to say our yearly average was less than a minute out the door, across the whole thing. Some of that was the IM responding alerts us a little quicker. There's a time lag from dispatch when when the 911 callers taking that call, they're still gathering some information, getting ready to push us out the door. IM responding gives us as soon as they enter into the CAD system, it's blasting it out, so guys are moving. The staff members are moving. That helped out immensely. And then travel time from one side of town is 5 minutes. You very well know that, from your time on the police department, whichever side of town you post up on, the call is always on the other side of town.
Murphy's Law is in full
Yep.
effect, and I'm
And I know there's a lot of discussion on, well, you could still, you could do the maintenance on both sides of town. Truly, it doesn't make financial sense to maintain an entire toolbox over on one side of town and maintain a toolbox on the other side of town. We consolidated all those into one. There's more workspace in Station 2, so most of the bulk of the maintenance is done on this side of town. If the guys have to bring one of those trucks over, they'll go get it, bring it over, to do the routine maintenance. If there's something that can't be moved, then they'll try to fix it and get it going there, or before we call the mechanic in.
Yeah, actually, that leads right into my other question: is what types of routine maintenance?
The lights and, the marker lights, any of the lights that are out, the checking on the oil, the running the pumps, that kind of stuff. Since the town was nice enough to purchase the diesel exhaust capture system, we can actually run the trucks in the bays during the winter time. So we're not breathing in that nasty diesel exhaust system. So the trucks actually the pumps get run a lot more in the winter than they did before. When it was super cold out, we didn't like to bring them outside and flow that water through them so much. So it's easier for us to fire them up, wet those pumps down. Because when it starts getting below zero, and the last winter we didn't see many days on that, we'll drain those pumps right down, so if they're outside, they're not freezing up. As we all know, water expands when it freezes and it cracks those, and those pumps get very expensive. So that affords us the opportunity to actually run those pumps weekly inside the station.
Thank you.
When you do that breakdown of day staff calls versus the rest, if you can also break down by station, give us that idea.
I don't.
If you can.
I don't think it breaks me down by station. I think it just gives me an overall.
Okay.
I did pull the number, so it'll actually tell me how many times each truck moves for a response time. So, I mean, that was some of the data generating information that was used to start combining some of these larger trucks.
So maybe just make sure I was clear on that. So the average response time from call to on scene, you probably have. Do you have it by kind of station or by that same split that we
I can
use
look.
for-
I'll see how it breaks down.
And when we're defining it by station, are we splitting it the same as you are for EMS at Old State, or what do you
Yes.
define? Okay.
Yeah, we just use that
Use
divided
that
line.
as the cutoff for all of it? Okay.
Yep.
And then to Scott's original one, which was the call count day versus, day staff hour call count versus the rest of the time, if you can break that down by station.
You want to meet again on that, or you want me to just send you that information?
I don't know. I think there'll be a few more questions probably before we figure it out at the end. If
Okay.
we're gonna get back together soon or not on stuff. But you can send it either way, ahead of, by email. You mentioned the training has gotten back on track now. It was slow after COVID.
Yeah, COVID, we struggled to get back on a track. I think we struggled clear across the county. There's been some reinvigoration with the county training program, so they've reinvigorated the Basic Six. We had one member actually go through the Basic Six this year, a newer member, and that went very, very well. I think with these next 4 that we're getting on, there's been some discussion at the county level to run it twice a year. We'll see how that goes. They need to have, I think there's 12. They'll run it with 12 people through there. So as long as we can provide 12 people through the county, it's advantageous for them to run it. So there's no cost to us other than hour times.
And then what does our training internal look like back to? Or what's the norm now?
So they're back to once a month.
Once a month? You mentioned our ISO rating. So what does ISO 4 to ISO 3 get us as a town? What's the benefit of that or the value of that? And you said we're a few points away. Before I even ask what it might take to get there, what is that?
Doing my own
us?
research. So to get there, I'll answer the second question first. To get there, it was more. It was a lot of documentation that we were missing. Not having the reporting software, not having those reports actively generated at our fingertips, or actually knowing what they were looking for that. Part of it was officer development training, which we've increased that. And some of that other, and just the actual training. Some of the stuff for the ISO rating is beyond our control. The dispatch center, we have absolutely no control over that. Instead of having a pressure generated hydrant system, it's gravity fed, so we don't have much control over that. So I think we can make up the difference in the just with the fire department and the training for minimal costs. Doing my own research from trying to argue with my insurance company on my homeowner's insurance because it came in as a 5, and I argued with them for several months that no, it's a 4. I worked very hard to get it down to a 4. There's a little bit of cost savings to the homeowner. It basically helps out the businesses in town. So there's afforded there. Some of the insurance companies, and by no means am I an insurance guy, some of them look at it, some of them do not. I do know that if it's a 10, your town becomes uninsurable, and most insurance companies won't insure your houses at that, or it'll be hugely expensive.
Okay,
There's
well,
been
let's
a
not
few
go there.
residents that I've written letters for and sent a copy of the ISO rating letter that we get from Veristech for them, and I haven't heard anything back, whether it was good or bad. So. I mean, the other thing that really affects the insurance companies is when you start talking to hydrant systems. We have a very ample water supply, a static water supply on the other side of town that we move, and we in the county are very good at moving water. So,
What about plans? I know, part of the discussion always comes back to staffing, where and when, between the stations. What are you envisioning in 26 or 27 as you have more day staff in terms of, what kind of plan do you have about what stations and frequency or anything like that?
I think we will be able to have a bigger presence at both of them during the time frame. It's hard to nail down, do they go over there do I send the staff over there on Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and then rotate it around the next week? Because the calls are all over the board. So you never know what days they're going to come in. Today we didn't have any calls, but we did 6 yesterday.
Have you considered doing like 2 and 2 or half and half?
Yeah, we can
each
look
side
at
of
it.
town and things like that. Just kind of what are your thoughts around how we do that? Because Murphy's always going to be at play no matter what you
Oh,
do. It'll be the
wholeheartedly.
wrong one that day. So we can't plan it around that, right?
Correct.
But everybody gets lucky once in a while, so I guess you kind of never know, right? I'm just trying to think of being more
Sure.
thoughtful about how do you split it up and how do you
No, we can definitely do
provide
that.
some presence at both sides, and depending on the call, that gets quicker response for at least the first crew.
And there's some maintenance, there's, I won't say deferred maintenance, but the building needs to be power washed. There's some stuff around there. The lawn needs to be beautified a little bit.
Right. Well, and to your point, it can be. I get the idea. It makes sense to me that there's some things where you don't want to have double everything, right? That's the
Correct.
downside and the cost of having two stations and keeping two
Yeah,
of
I mean,
everything.
if we
so
didn't-
the maintenance, certain maintenance, and having certain tools that are not emergency equipment, they're maintenance equipment on one side, and so you go over there for that work. But the idea that to split that up and kind of, if the crew all has to go to one side of town for a week to work on something, so be it.
Sure.
But how do we kind of rotate that more than we have as we grow that staff?
We can draw up a plan for that.
I think that would
Ideally,
go,
in the best world, if we didn't have two stations now, and we're going to build one, I would build it in Farley where it's in the middle.
and then every call would be at either end of town.
The
But I agree
the
with
travel
you. It'd be
distance
half
would be
as
shorter.
No,
but it would cost us
absolutely.
half
That's
as much money.
100% true. If we could build one new one in the middle, that's where you always want it.
Well, I mean, so it does beg the question when you start talking about, one, about response time, and I get the idea that we have two stations, so everybody wants the response to come from the station that's, the closest to where the incident is. But you look at the majority of the county, they don't have two stations.
No.
And there's a lot of those towns that are much bigger and have much more, square mileage that they're covering with one location, with a far higher number of service calls. So there's that piece of it about, if people really want that adequate response, the 2 in, 2 out, but from both stations, let's start looking at a plan that has 8 staff members. You have 4 at each station. If you're going to keep all of that equipment and you want to respond from both. So I say that sort of tongue in cheek, but it's the reality of if you want the service at the same speed from both sides of the town, you need to have adequate staffing at both sides at the same time. The flip side of that is if we are going to look at saying, you take the chance of you have all the staff members in one side, you rotate the days on where they are, the projects they're working on. From a capital standpoint, if we're buying trucks that can fit in either station, we don't need 4 or 5 trucks. You can look at and you move it. If you're in the other side of town, it's parked over there where you're there. So you're responding from, for the most part. There's some nuance to that because there's a lot of, other apparatus that has to go with that. But the idea that you have to have a replication of all of the equipment and all of the services on both sides of the town, it's costly in the long haul, long range of what we're looking at. So just keep that in mind when we start talking about, buildings and capital and what we're purchasing. I know you brought it from saying you can comfortably go from 5 to 4,
Oh, yeah.
but we're not using 4 trucks on any one call.
We have.
For-
We've managed to get them out the door, but yes, you're absolutely right. And I'm not a
We're
huge
not running
fan.
8 or 9 or 10 trucks in one call ever. I
Right.
don't
Right.
believe. I think.
I mean, the
that's more
idea is to
important.
downsize the larger trucks and use the smaller trucks as the follow-on pieces.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of building a truck that's a mutual aid piece that, we're gonna, if it fits the mutual aid call, then yes, that's great. And I think we can financially build one that fits our needs and can also be loaned out, when somebody else is in need. And I think we're moving in that correct direction at this point in time. Time will tell.
Other questions, comments,
No.
things we'd like to see or follow up?
I've already asked for mine.
Yeah, no, I was saying if there's any others.
Nothing new.
No, like I said, I was curious about the response times, and I asked the question about the
Yep.
maintenance, thinking about, you know, just making sure for the 10,000 people watching from home that, you know, we're not asking them to do services that a certified mechanic on those type of apparatus should be working on.
Yeah, yep, absolutely.
And that it's appropriate within talent and scope. So I appreciate all that, and the other information will be forthcoming.
No, and I
can
think
look
that's
at.
that's some of the cost drivers for our maintenance program. I mean, we do have a very robust maintenance program. The trucks are very well kept, as you can very well see, the ages of them, and they're still running. So we do use a certified service that comes in and services the pumps, and then we test them yearly. All of the heavy trucks go up to Rose Ledge to have him work on them. Just the smaller trucks, the guys are doing the oil changes on, rotating the tires, that kind of stuff.
Right. And I do appreciate it, you know, and
Takes us a while to get 3,000 miles on a truck.
no, I like the fact that they are routinely maintained and they're kept up to snuff, because
The guys are
if
very,
you're
very,
responding to my house, I'd love to know that equipment's going to work.
the guys are very proud of the equipment when it goes up there. I mean, if there's a light out, they're fixing it the next day. If they notice it and it's out, or they're going back and fixing it right then and there.
Well, and as much as you never know, and you don't want them to calls to come, if you don't run the trucks ever, it's
True.
actually good that they're running not
Yeah.
the calls to Tom, because you know what it's like to leave a vehicle sitting too long.
Well, that was part of the issue we started running into, especially with the newer diesels, with all of the emissions that they're putting on there. Is we were taking them up to Rose Ledge to get the check engine light reset, because they're getting clogged up and they're getting that. So they've been running them back and forth, and obviously getting some miles on them. That's wear and tear, but it's keeping them alive.
What about community-facing stuff? I know off and on there's been various different things over the years, but kind of what do you foresee? Kind of what are you guys looking at doing? Community outreach and engagement type things.
We're getting back into school. This year was a tough year for the school. There was a lot of changes going back and forth. So next year, I did have a long conversation with the new principal, and she really wants to see us up in there. She envisioned at least once a month. I told her I'd like to be up there at least twice a month to do those, just to be with the kids and see them, so they get used to the firefighter. So if they're running in, God forbid something happens to their house, it's not as scary as it can be. They're familiar with us. We were doing a monthly program up here at the senior center. COVID kind of put that, and that's been a hard one to get back on track. Also, the summer park program we get into there.
So you say tough. Is there some obstacles or barriers to that we can help
No, I
with,
think it's
or
just
is it-
it's just been hard trying to figure out where what we're going to offer. And everybody has an idea, and it's hard to get those and how we can incorporate that while we're still tending to the medicals and stuff. We do have a great partnership with Northfield EMS, so anytime that there's especially with the senior center, there's a community project going on with Triad or something, they're coming down also. So we're seeing them guys a lot more too. I would love to say Orange does it. Orange's call volume with the 4 towns that they handle, I think they cover close to 96 square miles between Wendell, New Salem, Orange, and half of us. It's tough for them to get outside the station, come over and do some community stuff.
In terms of the post-COVID engagement here at the senior center, one of the things we've identified in searching for our next director is the wants of the senior center, community center consumers has changed. Has that affected
Yes.
like the programs you use?
I would
to
say,
offer
so
aren't?
we put together some programs initially and came up here, and they were well. The patrons of the senior center enjoyed them, as I felt, but it looked like the attendance level was kind of waning off, or unless they were hanging out waiting for something.
also looking at some of our neighbors, like Turner's and Greenfield that do have full-time and other things that they do, that they're able to do in those hours, obviously when there's calls, but, to engage with the community and just how can we do more of that.
We checked with Turner's on the car seat program, and I know that the PD started that up. It's a huge time commitment, training commitment. I want to say it's recertified every other year. It's a great program. It was quite costly on the man hours.
Interesting.
From the program that they were running, I'm not sure what the PD's running, so I'm not 100% sure.
This is something that we've talked about a little bit, maybe Brian and I, off and on a little bit about trying to be more informative to the public, right? I'm talking about our social media presence and other things that we want to kind of maybe look at in 26, 27 to try to holistically do better at, right? Revamp website, Facebook, things like that. Infographics, some kind of quarterly or even hopefully maybe eventually monthly updates, things out there are something that I know people, at least that I've heard, enjoy seeing. So stuff like that, where some of these statistics that we're talking about become, just a quick thing that can be posted quarterly to the residents to see. We've had 90 calls and 45 were medical and, 61% was on this side of town, just those kind of things. Obviously we're not going to post a log of everywhere you've been and every house you went to, but some just high level, information. I think that's helpful for people to understand what those hours are being spent on too.
Sure.
And it would help better define and maybe mitigate some of the opinion of we sit around all day and, there is that out there, right? I mean, it would be real. It is a job where you have to sit around and wait for maybe, hopefully, nothing happens. And that's what we're paying you to do. But there's a whole lot of other things that you can and do, and I think that getting that message out on some frequency would be helpful for the community, too. To understand that that's not all that we get for what we ask to do.
I did have one other question that popped into my mind when you were talking about doing some things with the school, with the community center, senior center up here, and various activities. Is there the staff you're using for that? Is it the full-timers or is it full-timers and call force?
We put it out to both.
Okay.
So if the call force is available, they do come up.
Maximizing the number of staff that are available. Okay. Just wanted to check on that. Thank you.
I know it's tough for them because they do work the full-time jobs.
Yeah, that's.
I did that for a number of years. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. You don't want to get up all the time, but.
No, it's
I
a
think
great
that-
question.
Yeah.
I'm good for now.
Okay. Would you like, you probably won't be here by then. Would you like Chief to come back with some proposals and maybe a little more around the community side, staff plans?
I think Bill would really enjoy that on July 7th.
in July or August. So yeah, maybe give you a little time to kind of flesh that stuff out. I know you'll be adding a staff member and such, so if late July or early August makes sense, but somewhere in there in the next couple months, put that stuff together. Come back. We'll talk about what's that look like for the next year or two.
Sure.
Okay.
Works for me.
Awesome. All right.
I know it
Thank you,
works for Scott.
No, that's why I looked at him. I said, "You won't be here for it." So
No,
Scott can watch it from television.
I will.
he was welcome to watch it.
Yeah, I will watch
In
it from
person
my
or live?
couch.
All right. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
All right. Review and discussion of proposed draft road opening regulations, fourth read. Come on up, sir. So this is primarily feedback from legal.
Predominantly, yes.
Yep.
I tried to make sure that we had sent them the feedback. You continue to have another read or two where you made a few additional edits with the superintendent. So I've tried to reconcile those into the feedback we received from council. So if you're seeing it in blue, that should be legal, and red should be me putting the edits in from your last review.
Okay. I
I do
think
want
there
to
might,
review your meeting minutes one more time to make sure I captured it all, but I think it's predominantly in there.
okay. Just looking at page 1, I think there might have been a little misunderstanding with the person at our legal firm who looked at this, and that we don't have road commissioners, but just select board.
I will take care of
So obviously, probably want to reverse a fair amount of those edits on page 1, if not all. I don't think there was anything on there that looked like it should stay.
Nope.
So we'll revert all those.
Okay. So I'll
If you have any concerns, speak up, obviously.
No,
when
I
we're-
was just gonna throw it out
When
there.
we're talking through it, go ahead.
in going through the blue line edits from the legal counsel, a lot of them are just preference of language, and I didn't see anything that was substantive that I could pull out that was alarming. But there was most of it is just, it seems like legal counsel has their verbiage they like to see for whatever reason.
So I have some questions on his blue line also, since you brought that up. Anything from above the permit application, it refers to as the highway superintendent approval, denial, or enforce. And you get down into the permit application part of it, and refers to the highway department as being able to make decisions, approvals, and denials also. So wondering why it got changed from superintendent to highway department.
That's a good question.
I think, so
think it needs to be-
13, it still shows a highway superintendent,
Starts at
and
15.
at 15, from 15 down, but then it reverts back to highway superintendent as you get closer to the end of it. So that was my only concern. Does that mean that anybody on the highway department, if they're on duty, can go out and deny a permit, an application or a request? Because that's what it's showing in 15.
I think
So, go ahead.
I think 15 actually is a place where in the initial text, it still
Yeah.
said department, so they were carrying that.
There's more to 15 though, so I think maybe let's take them one by one,
Sure.
because I think it's more complicated than just verbiage. So 15, we had an automatic approval effectively, right,
Right.
after 10 business days.
Mhm.
And the edits they changed that.
Right.
At
Correct.
which point
Council
the
is
department
uncomfortable with it.
becomes superintendent versus, and I think that's where the confusion is. So if there's an automatic approval, the department can proceed, or whatever can happen. It doesn't require a superintendent. But if we're talking that there is no automatic approval, then it would be a superintendent, right? So I
Correct.
think we need to look at that language closely. That's one where I did think there's some meat there that we need to look at on is it right, wrong, or otherwise for what we're trying to do.
13, council wanted to suggest that language. He was uncomfortable with the idea of no limit on the number of extensions that could be granted. So he wanted to offer a recommendation that you cap it at 3, but still allow the highway superintendent to exercise some discretion if there was something. I can't even think of an example right now, but if something was to arise that those extensions were still not good enough, that there was still a process he could follow.
So 3 extensions puts us at 240 days. That's a long time.
That is a long time.
From permit to work?
Right.
Is this to complete work, to start work?
Complete, I believe.
Complete.
Well, I tend to agree with council. Open-ended's not good either. I don't know if 3 is good. I don't know what you guys think. I don't know what makes sense to you. That sounds like a long time.
It is a long time, especially if it's a fall time permit and things need to be closed up before winter.
Yeah.
Well, they can request it. It's not automatically
Right.
granted, right?
Correct.
Maybe we need to be clear about that. It says they may be renewed. But maybe it should be very clear that an extension or a renewal may be requested. It's not automatic approval.
Yeah, and I read the original language as, assuming it was just one extension, as needed. I get council's point saying that it's ambiguous, so it could be open-ended for
Yeah.
infinite number of extensions.
Mm.
I don't know if there's a
Do you
way
have
to put,
recommendation for less than 3?
In 60 days, yeah, I think it should be less than 3. I'm all right with 1. Again, especially depending on the time of year when this permit is first approved. Then we get into late fall, early winter, when asphalt plants typically close down around Thanksgiving.
So why don't we reword that and say,
I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
no, I was going to say you could reword it, but you can also put a disclaimer of an end date that it doesn't have to be in this language, but in
But
your.
there is one, it's an emergency one.
Yeah.
So there is an end date for permits. I think it was listed November something, I think, because it was gonna be no permitted winter work. It would be
There's a November
emergency,
to April period unless it's an emergency
unless it's an
situation.
emergency.
right, so there's a, there's
So
an
having
exclusion
this,
period.
having this reference back to that the extensions also don't mitigate or may not trigger an emergency to allow it to go beyond the November date.
Yeah.
My thought on it was, I would be more comfortable with maybe granted one extension at your discretion. You have, as the superintendent, have the right to authorize or deny the extension and have also the discretion for extenuating circumstances to go beyond one. 3 to me is
Yeah, I agree.
more than half a
Get
year.
carried
I
away.
think that exceeds November to April to November, sorry.
Right,
It does.
I mean, literally.
right.
Yeah.
So what if we go to 60 days data issue? A renewal may be, an extension may be requested. One
guaranteed.
extension of an additional 60 days may be requested, subject to the statement and approval by the highway superintendent. And, you may grant an additional, extension should you feel it is merited beyond the control of the applicant.
Mhm.
And then I think in the last sentence about filing the request for extension prior to it, then says if it's allowed to expire without timely renewal. What's timely renewal? Just if it's expired, it's expired. Like to me, right? If you didn't ask for that extension before it renewed, you have to apply again. Because it's expired.
Yep.
So this timely renewal is like, well, who decides what's timely?
Understandable.
11:59 the night before, Glenn, I need an extension. Dropped it off on your doorstep. I just think we should just be really explicit about that stuff. And if you want to add another sentence, I think, to one of your points about no extension beyond, a permit extension request does not, allow you to extend outside of the allowed April to November timeframe
Mhm.
without going through the emergent process.
Well, right. Yeah.
And again, I don't know if all of that language has to be in there because the superintendent is authorized at his discretion to say, knowing that this doesn't rise to an emergent need, I'm not approving the extension.
Period.
Period. Done.
Right.
It's get it done by the date that was, allocated to get it done.
Or I'll give you 10 days.
Right.
It's your discretion, so you can give an extension that's not 60 days.
It doesn't have
right?
to be 60
It can
days,
be,
right?
so he should probably be up to, one extension up to 60 days. Because the discretion on how many days to give,
Right. I like that word.
Yep.
I was going to say, would 30 be enough? 90 days to complete a project would, to me, be a lot. But
Right.
I like that. Not
You don't want our roads open for 6 months out of
No,
the
I
year?
don't. I
or
really
the
don't.
option to,
Yeah.
cut them open.
No, I like that. 1 up to 60.
At the
With
discretion.
approval.
Yeah, with approval from the
Yeah.
superintendent. If you say 5 days or 10 days, fine, get it done.
Okay.
If that works for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, when I was reading this earlier, the 3 extensions, that's a lot of days. It's another 180 days, which could get into winter months. Yeah, up to additional 60 days.
And
Okay.
just, I'm going to circle back as I was thinking of this, I just got reminded, but the change in language from superintendent to department, I think it should be the superintendent or even superintendent or designee across the board where, you know, Glenn's entitled to go on vacation or take personal time. He can
Right.
appoint somebody in his absence to review and approve or.
I'm
Not
okay with that
comfortable
also. I just didn't understand why it went from superintendent to highway department and impact the superintendent.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at part of 15 where it says after the applicant has submitted the required materials and received confirmation that the submission was received by the highway department. In that, you know, are we allowing anybody to receive the application? Which makes sense. I mean, if you're tied up and it's, you know, that's where it's superintendent or designee, and at any time you can say, hey, I'm going to be on the other side of town. But somebody shows up and there's one of your employees is, you know, at the garage and says, yeah, I can accept that for you. I'll make a note of it and I'll hand it off to the superintendent as soon as he gets back.
Well, that's a question. Is that what you want, right?
Well, that's what I'm asking is, you know, is that acceptable or does it have to be in hand to you only?
No, I don't think it has to be in hand to me only.
Yeah.
So anyone in the department?
So anyone in the department can accept it, doesn't mean they're approving it.
Correct.
They can accept the.
They just accept the
They can
application
accept
on your behalf and they make sure it goes off to the superintendent
Yeah.
for actual review and the process. I think that's where you can, you know, acceptance from an applicant, you know, can be the highway
Okay.
department.
Application will be reviewed by the highway superintendent.
Correct.
Within 10 days.
That's
right?
where the difference needs to.
And the or designee, I don't think in the definition for superintendent we should put it, but somewhere should probably put a clause that it's or your designee. So when you're away, you know, designate the foreman or someone to handle that in your absence. We should have some clause somewhere, or maybe it is even in the, maybe it is in the definitions. It says
definitions.
superintendent is the Erving Highway superintendent or their designee
So that's where it
in
just
their
has to be
absence or
changed.
something like that. And we can put it up there, and then it always covers anywhere it's highway superintendent. It can also be.
Right.
Okay.
You take a day off, by default, it's whoever you designate while you're gone. We don't have to change it in every section of the.
Right, we don't have to find every reference to superintendent or designee, and, you know, just do
Right.
it one time, make sure it's a catch-all.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Works.
Okay.
Less ink.
Yes.
There you go. So 15, first highway department stays, second highway department should be superintendent.
Yep.
Then the remainder of the language, the after 10 business days piece here. So was there context to that change from council or no?
I was looking at, no, excuse me, what was the question?
On 15?
Yep.
Was there context to the change in the second half of that from council? Or
From
just
after the
what they
10
changed?
business days.
Because there was basically an automatic approval may proceed
He did
that
not
got
like
struck.
And in fairness, you also struck it. You didn't, the three of you didn't like it either.
Right.
Okay.
So he was offering more.
I'm trying to follow that striking. I guess I didn't realize that was ours as well from last time.
Yeah, because you both struck it, I just left his in.
That's fine.
He was offering, when he responded back with his concerns about that statement and not wanting an automatic approval, he questioned why you all had a number of business days in place for action. And I said, my recollection was that there was a balance of, there were certain timetables for the applicant side and there were certain timetables to keep us moving on reviewing and moving forward. So he said if that is the intention, he offered that it may be approved, it may be denied, but it also may be we need more information to make a decision. So we will be timely in our review and doing that work, but not guaranteeing that a decision will be made within 10 business days. So that's what he was trying to articulate.
So basically turning the 10 business day review means you will get something.
There will
Doesn't
be
mean you'll get
correspondence.
approved or denied. You may just get a request for more.
That's a possible outcome, if that's what's necessary to make that final determination.
Yeah, I'm still not a fan of his language.
If you go down that rabbit hole, then you're like, and then there'll be another 10 days, and then there'll be another. You know, I want to be cautious we're not just going to the nth degree either. Yeah, I don't like it either.
Well,
too wordy.
it's ambiguous because it just says that, we're going to change it to highway superintendent, but it says will be reviewed by the highway superintendent within 10 business days. After 10 business days, the highway superintendent may, so it doesn't really, how long after? There's no
Right
time.
after?
There's no timetable, so it's
Exactly,
anytime after that first
exactly.
10 business days goes, the superintendent can then ask for more documentation, or they can approve it or deny it. But in the first sentence, it says will give a response within 10 days. But after the 10 days, they can ask for more information, they can approve it or deny it. So it doesn't really coincide with the first sentence. I get his sentiment is saying you need more leeway for the superintendent to be able to, approve it, deny it, or ask for more information. But this language doesn't get there. Not in my book.
Well, what are we trying to do? Are we trying to set a timeline on when we respond? I guess go back to what is the
Yeah.
purpose of that?
I thought initially that was
I think that's what it's
All right.
for.
our part of the bargain. We're expecting
Yeah.
applicants to be responsive and in kind. We're also going to be prompt and responsive.
So then it's not really about when it's reviewed, it's about when we'll respond. So the application will be, a response will be received within 10 business days? Or the highway superintendent will respond to the application within 10 days?
That's what we started with.
Yeah, I know. But then we had the after 10 and all that.
Yeah.
And we don't need that.
I
But
don't
the
think
after
so.
10 was there before, it just keeps changing. Do we just stop it? That it will be reviewed and
Be
responded
reviewed
to
Within 10 days.
Because review doesn't mean anything unless you add respond.
Let me ask you this.
Will be reviewed, accepted, denied, or approved in 10 days.
Reviewed and responded, then you can respond
Yeah, you can respond however you
anyhow
want.
way
Okay.
you want.
Is 2 weeks, 2 calendar weeks, 10 business days enough time?
It's plenty.
Well, we just get rid of everything from after 10 and on.
Yeah. Just leave it
Yeah.
short
And
and
just
sweet.
change it to application will be reviewed and responded to
Within
by the superintendent within 10 days.
10 business
Business
days.
days. Good?
And
Good.
because
If you're happy with that timeline, I'm
you're
I'm good
reviewed
with
and
it.
at day 8 you have questions or need follow-up,
Right.
you can
Still
ask.
time.
And
You respond on day 10 and you go, this is half filled out, send me a full one. When I get a full one, I have 10 days again. I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? I received it and I got another 10 days.
Yeah.
I think it's straightforward enough.
Yep.
Where was the next highways department? Is it in 16?
Yeah, it's just one that wasn't blue lined or anything.
Yeah, that was one that we had in there.
Applicant shall just only express range. I mean, the only person who's going to be requiring additional information is going to be you, correct?
Correct.
So 16 should be the superintendent, not the department.
Mhm.
The 18 is notifying departments, that stays as is, right?
Correct.
Twenty-one,
21.
I think that should be the superintendent in both cases, in both references in there for highway department,
Yes.
because
Agreed.
it's an emergency.
It's
That is
emergency.
not a department notice, that is a timely, needs to be
yes,
responded to by you or your designee.
I agree.
Fees are refunded if the permit's not approved? What? 25? Article
Yeah.
425?
That's been in there.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah.
Do we want it in there? Still did the work.
your decision.
I mean, there's work done to accept or deny. There's more work in theory if the permit is issued, because you're gonna have to check it and stuff,
Correct.
right? I don't know, I'm not gonna hang up on it, but I don't,
We'll come back to it in a second.
okay. In 26, permittee is capitalized, is that the change? that
That's a
I'm
change.
reading? I'm just trying to make sure I'm
Guess
reading
so.
it right. I don't know. I'm surprised.
It appears that was the change.
Okay. In 27, do we want otherwise specified options?
I think that was left to be the discretion of the superintendent.
The other? But that's council adding that in, right?
Right. I think that was the justification.
Are we good with that?
Yeah.
$34. We had changes about the protected street. Before the last red line, thickness of the existing pavement, comma, and then I think we got a capital A in the "and" there in the red. It's probably not supposed to be capital. It's
No, it's not.
actually join it all
Yeah.
together. $35 is superintendent, not department, right?
Yep.
And 38, is that 10 business days or 10
Yeah.
calendar days? Daytime does not,
Yeah,
Work
it
for
should
me.
be, it should be two words in that case. It was, I don't know, autocorrect, but it's not a specific period within a day that we're limiting. It's the number of days, so.
Yeah.
well, and is it
And-
business days or calendar days? I'd just be
Right,
specific,
so
right?
I would say business days, within 10 business day time
I
limit.
think everything else refers to business days.
This is for the
Violation.
permittee to correct something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fine, but we can also require it to be quicker. We can,
Mhm.
we can disregard business days if it's a situation where they violated something and they need to fix it. I
Okay.
guess that is my question, is which one makes sense to us?
Well, I guess if it's a violation, it would have to be done quicker than
That's
not.
what this is,
So-
a notice of violation, so.
Right. So it would probably would not be 10 business days. It would be, do it, get it done. You don't get the weekend off to fix a violation.
So within 10 calendar days?
I'd say calendar days, change it to calendar days.
Okay, provided with a 10 calendar day limit, that's just really weird language to me. Nature of the violation and yeah, I guess.
When you put it that way, Glenn, is 10 days too many days to fit?
I guess it depends on the violation. A violation is a violation. I was just thinking that way you guys were talking. I don't know, maybe it should be cut in half, maybe it should be down to a 5-day.
I mean, 37 feels like it's trying to get towards the same kind of thing to me. Because it's talking about immediate
Immediate
corrective
corrective
action,
action.
not
not a day limit?
Yeah, I mean,
So if it's called immediate corrective actions in 37, why wouldn't it be in 38 also then?
well, maybe if we look at 38 like it's something that isn't emergent. So, notice of violation, violating these, you get a written notice and provided a, 10 calendar days to, satisfactorily correct the issue. If the violation is deemed to be emergent or, maybe just emergent, that notice and that timeline may be shorter, right? It may not be in writing, it may be a call and you come do it, or we're gonna do it and bill you, as per 37,
As it says in 37.
yeah. I mean, because you get A and B, okay, C.
I was just gonna
Yeah,
say,
it's gonna-
like,
we're
When you get
getting-
to C, it
when you get to
becomes
C,
exigent, right?
you're jeopardizing public safety. Yeah, that falls under
That's
37.
not a 10-day.
Yeah.
That's not a 10-dayer.
Right, right. So
I think we
Do you
pulled
wanna
that one
move
right
those
out
up
of
to
there.
37?
I'm wondering if
No.
maybe we need to rework 38 and include what's in 37 and have like two pieces to it.
Just in totality of violations.
Yeah, like
Some that are
notice of
emergent.
violation, like these things you may be found and you'll be given, up to 7 day or up to 10 days to correct, depending upon
Depending on what
the,
its
severity and, impact of violation.
Right.
And then list them, and then at the bottom it can be, when there are reasons of safety, it has to be, has to have immediate corrective action, you will be notified accordingly.
That's it.
If you don't do it, we will do it and bill you. So that, if it's not severe, you have some leeway. If it is,
Right.
we're going to act.
Yep.
We're going to tell you to act, and if you don't act, we will. At your
I
expense.
think it's, yeah.
And just tidy that up.
Yep.
Okay.
Leave it as one
Yeah.
article
So
or one
we'll
section.
move 37 into 38 and get rid of 38.
and renumber everything.
And they're going to renumber everything.
All how many? 100 of.
It's fine.
Or you can do
as long as it's
emergency
one-
by, you can do severe, or
I mean, it's already been
Something.
renumbered from what, 40
How many
something?
times?
Multiple times.
it does it automatically, right? So
Yeah.
No.
it is what it is. What?
Oh,
No?
you have to do it. You have to do it by hand.
Yeah, it's okay.
That's
No,
all we
it's
do.
not.
No, it's not.
It's totally fine.
We needed to do it automatically.
39 was important in terms of authorizing the use of the non-criminal disposition process.
So $300 per day fine for violating the requirements. So you can fine them if you choose to, and then we can pursue the fine if you choose to tell us to. Seems a little redundant in 2 sentences. Is that how I'm reading that? First sentence, you can fine them if you choose to, and then the second sentence, we can enforce it if you want us to, if you tell us it's okay.
Oh, yeah.
The town may, at the discretion of the superintendent, enforce a fine.
We can merge those two together.
Yeah,
I was
really.
gonna say.
How about the
The important
town?
part is
So-
getting the last half of that sentence incorporated into
With
the
the
Sure, and that's
MGL.
fine.
Yeah, so
Superintendent
you
may
could-
impose a $300 fine against any permittee who violates requirements contained herein till it's rectified to the status, and accepted by the superintendent.
Pursuant
and those,
to.
Yeah, pursuant to and then enforce said fine pursuant to the reg.
So why wouldn't it just be where he started the blue line, the town may impose a $300 fine at the discretion of the superintendent, and get rid of everything up top where it starts as the superintendent may impose?
You're saying the town may, at the discretion of the superintendent, enforce a $300 per day fine
Right.
against a permittee who violates blah, blah, blah until rectified and accepted by superintendent pursuant to.
Yeah, pursuant
Instead of
to,
discretion, recommendation.
Well, I mean, you'd be imposing the fine on the town's behalf, right?
Correct.
Well, that language
This-
says the town
Now,
would be
this one
imposing
that
it.
shows the town may.
Which is it? Yeah, I guess
Right.
that's the question.
It's always the town, but he's the authorized.
He's working as
Official.
an
Right, 'cause
agent
he
of
is-
the town.
exactly.
He is the town. So it's saying the town may, at the discretion of the superintendent, seems
It's
very,
really, the superintendent
may.
may,
That's it. It's,
right, it's the superintendent may. This inherently is the town giving you authorization to do that. That we put the language in here and adopt it is giving you that discretion on behalf of the town
Okay.
so it's that,
to enforce a fine. So it's really, the superintendent may impose a fine.
yeah, so it's that first sentence,
It really is still the first sentence.
pursuant to the regulations through non-criminal disposition,
Right,
blah, 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 and we're done.
yeah. So really, it's just get rid of everything up to pursuant
yeah,
of the blue.
yep.
Okay. I would add a clause, this is in addition to any charges related to our old 37 up there. So,
You could do that
This is
as a
like-
last sentence.
yeah, as a last sentence, this would be in addition to any charges from
Notice
the
of-
town due to, corrective action required due to the violation or something
In
like that.
section 37 or whatever,
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to make sure that it's like, you get a $300 fine on top of, if we have to do it, we're billing you. Just make sure that.
Yeah,
that's
one is
also-
billable, one is a fine.
Right,
Two different mechanisms.
true. Yeah, I guess that is a fine, so.
One is punitive and one is
Actually, speaking of 37, it says DPW.
I saw that.
There's a throwback.
Highway Department.
Yeah, there's a throwback.
Wait, we're supposed to change it to DPW?
Okay, I'll fix up.
Okay.
Go back to your other question. I wanted to do a little research.
Okay. Circling
Scrap
back.
it.
Huh?
Scrap it. Their time is valuable. We charge the fee for the application. Period. They have to do
There
the
is
work.
no refund.
They have to do the work no matter what. I mean, they're reviewing the application. They're putting in the time. That's what the fee is for. Whether or not the work is valid and the application is approved is irrelevant. It's-
Okay.
Fine.
I agree.
So
The work
yeah.
is done. If you submitted it and it got reviewed and it got rejected, that doesn't mean that work wasn't done.
Correct.
We take credit card for those?
It
Correct?
showed that, yes, it was check or credit card.
It says that, do we?
We passed over item regarding Civic Plus, so we'll have to have that conversation at the next meeting. But that is the anticipated plan.
Okay. And if we do, that platform charges those fees to the applicant?
That's typically how it's set up, yeah.
Because we can't incur those fees. That's why
Correct.
I brought it up.
Yep.
Even if we can process them, we can't pay the processing fees. So.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Good. Good with that. Back to 40 something.
Yeah, 41 gives the dates
Mm-hmm.
for permitted stuff.
In 41, why do we put the weather condition favorable in there? To me, it's
I'm assuming, and because
we're
there are
overly
times
generous?
that the plants will turn around and say it's unseasonably warm, we don't see anything cooling down, and they want to run their plants until November 30th because they can squeeze out 3 more jobs and they can make
They've
more
done
money.
it.
I know they have. All I'm saying is that we're not debating what the weather conditions were. It should just be discretion or authorization. of an exception. How and
Leave the
why
weather
should
out
be
of it.
discretionary. I don't like the idea of putting all kinds of
Okay,
language
I
about
see what you're
when, so
saying.
we can debate
So you're
whether
not-
it's
you're-
okay to do it or not that
So you're
day.
not still saying you're hard and fast on the 15th?
No.
You just want the reasons for the justification of doing it till the 30th,
It's his
Are
discretion,
the superintendent's.
period.
because he knows the plant's open, because the weather's fine, he makes that decision, you're fine with it. I'm good with that.
Okay, yeah, I'm good with that.
So November 1st to April 1st.
One person reads it and says, I don't see rain coming, why wouldn't you approve my extension?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's warm enough for me. But, like, we're not going to debate the weather. I know it says that you determine the weather, but, like, you're a weatherman too. You just have to guess with the rest of us on whether he's right or not.
Right.
So I would just say of the following year, unless an emergency or special condition exists and permission is obtained in writing, or from the superintendent, not the town, the superintendent. Make sense? What's the special condition? It's supposed to be unseasonably hot for another 60 days, and we'd like to work. And you say, okay. Make sense? You good?
Yeah, I'm good with that, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
.45 is an ad.
Correct. That's from council.
Oh, that'll be easy. You just got to fix it till 45 and not accept the changes after that.
Done.
Yeah. Highway department shall deliver written demand. Who's doing the written demand in reality in this scenario? Is it the town really?
Mm-hmm.
Not the department or the superintendent? Who would
I
be?
think this one would be the town.
So I think in the first reference, it's the highway department would deliver, the town, not a highway department, would deliver a written demand, right? Because we would do it on behalf of, but it would be the town in this case. They fail to take action or cure acceptable to the highway superintendent, then the town would make a direct claim upon the performance bond.
Agreed.
.46 inspections. Are they notifying the department or you? And by you, I mean Glenn. Sorry.
It should be the
Should probably be
superintendent.
specific. Should be you? Yep. So inspections both should be superintendent.
Mhm.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes?
And I understand all the authorities and approvals. When we're getting to things like this is like who can accept the paperwork if you're not standing there. If somebody answers the phone, did they notify the superintendent?
If somebody answers the phone, what?
If somebody else answers the phone other than Glenn,
Yep.
have they notified the superintendent?
No.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's my point, though, because they have to schedule that inspection with the superintendent, not with the department, right?
And he assigns somebody to answer the phone because he has the staffing capacity to do that. I'm throwing
Sure.
out a scenario here.
Yeah.
Are we really going to get to the point where if the person didn't speak to the superintendent to notify them specifically? I mean, at some point, I think we can be a little too detailed here.
Well, that's kind of what I was saying about, just the submittal of the application.
Who can hand the
It's
application
the
to
same
who?
thing. I mean, if you,
Okay.
I think approval makes sense. Extensions, inspection of the work, that makes sense. But who can schedule it? That's typically a clerical function.
I don't think we were big enough to say that existed.
It did
Today.
5 years ago.
I understand.
So I'm just
Today,
saying, like,
yeah,
this
yeah.
regulation.
No,
I'm
that's
hoping
fair.
we're not touching
Fair.
this regulation for a few years.
Okay.
So, is this another
It's a fair
designee?
point. No, because superintendent would be designee anyway. So,
Potentially.
I don't know. the end of the day, Glenn, I mean,
If
you're the one
we-
that's gonna have, at least for now,
If
have
we
to
had
oversee and,
yeah.
so is it department or is it superintendent? And knowing superintendent is always and designee, or designee.
True.
And what constitutes, because Thomas answers the phone. Glenn's not here right now, but I'll have him call you back if it's about this. And then when you communicate with them, the notification's been made at that point.
Correct.
Right. but-
Or Thomas answers the phone and says, Glenn's on PTO in the Bahamas for 3 weeks, and I'm his designee. I can schedule that for you now.
Right. Or someone on the building and grounds team answers the phone and says, oh, you need an inspection where? Okay, sounds good, we'll see you then. Click. Is that sufficient? That's my other side of
hear
the
ya.
scenario.
Yep.
And they forget to tell Glenn, and we're now going back, well, I notified the department and they didn't come out. And so nothing is right or wrong in this, it's just what makes sense. If you're comfortable that that won't happen, or those people know to make sure Glenn knows that you just got committed to something, and I don't care, it can be department. Just want to make sure we are good with whatever that is and that we can administer it successfully. That's all.
Exactly.
And that's why I keep looking at you, Glenn,
So
'cause at the end of the day, it's whether you're good with that. Because we're not going to be
There's-
answering that phone doing it.
There's the language and there's the practicality of it. You can put the superintendent on there. I still think if we reference back, it's superintendent or
Or
designee.
designee.
Somebody's going to answer that. If it's an internal failure, where a staff
Absolutely.
member, then we deal with that on an internal failure.
Absolutely.
That's not on them to say, okay, I'll call back when Glenn's there so I can talk with the superintendent directly and let them know. I mean, it's not, they've called the department. They've made the notification.
If this says department, but if it doesn't, then we would have the leeway to say you didn't talk to the superintendent, so you didn't follow through. That's where the language matters if I'm the permittee.
Yeah.
If the permittee language says I had to talk to the superintendent or designee, not the department, then it does matter who answered, and I should be sure.
So,
Or if it fails, it's on me, not on the town, right?
Right.
That's the nuance, I think, that I'm trying to get toward. And I have no problem with it being the department, and the nuance is on us to manage that.
Right.
We can also sleep on it and come back. We're not going to finalize this tonight, so we don't have to answer that in the moment.
Well, to your point, you updated the definition to always mean or designate,
yeah, I think changing it to
We're
superintendent
going to
is
do
fine.
that.
but that covers all these bases.
But
Yeah.
that would cover these bases.
It leaves the discretion with the superintendent to assign or unassign.
Correct, but it
It's-
does put the onus on the permittee to make sure they got the designee or the
Correct.
superintendent.
Yep, right. And
Not
so
just whoever answered the phone.
it's kind of like policy versus procedure. You
Yeah.
keep your policies limited, direct, and your nuance lies in the procedure. Like Scott said, if Glenn, in managing his department, says, if somebody calls and needs to schedule an inspection, you shall let me know, or else. And we deal with that on a case-by-case basis.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Um,
But he can say that too, but if it says superintendent and they call and don't get that, then it's as much
Yeah,
on
see,
them.
I
That's
mean,
all.
as a resident who's calling, or you know, a contractor who's calling, and it says superintendent, and somebody else answers the phone, I don't know what your
No, you don't.
regulation is. I don't-
Absolutely.
And so I just say I notified the department, and so
Sure.
to split hairs for a board to sit up here and say, well, you didn't notify the superintendent. I don't know who I talked to. I talked to the highway department. You know, well, our policy says, and he's like, I don't work
I
for your
agree.
policy. That's, you know, that's a little bit of.
It is, but that's the kind of stuff we've set up in here dealt with before. Let's be real.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say it, but that's the reality. We sometimes have to deal with that. So I'm not saying it should be one way or the other. I'm just saying we should be clear on what it says, and that's what we're signing up for.
I'm just wondering if there's a way to keep the first sentence, shall notify the highway department with an inspection, when an inspection is needed, period. The highway superintendent will coordinate with the applicant to schedule the timing of such inspection. they can notify anybody they want,
Yeah.
but
Sure,
the superintendent, and it's very clear,
Yeah.
that inspection only happens when the superintendent then coordinates with that person to
Yeah.
give notice of the inspection.
Sure.
Call whoever you want, and if we're delayed.
Notify it's required. Superintendent will coordinate the time.
Correct.
But yeah, sure.
And that
Great.
gets, that
That's very
sort of,
clear
that's
about
it's clear.
the
that
requirements.
They don't have to call and be like, all right, let me know when the superintendent's back, or let him know, have him call me back. I've notified you I need an inspection. He notifies at his convenience, calls them back and says, hey, I can be out there on this day and time. You know,
Okay.
Because if I'm the permittee and I don't hear back,
You're
and I'm
calling
not getting
again.
paid for my job until it's done,
I'm
I'm
calling
calling
again.
back.
Right, exactly.
yeah, probably in another hour.
Right.
I wonder why I didn't get a call back. Yeah. So I think just adding that.
Okay, yep.
Do we have working days somewhere? We have working hours. I'm assuming it's meant to also mean Monday through Friday.
Good question. I don't think we
I
do
don't
have that.
think it calls out days.
You want to add that in here? Working days and hours?
I would think we should.
I don't think in any of our procurement jobs, it was always hours. When a contractor, I don't think I've ever read days, like a work day.
Right.
You know.
So, could be working hours and weekdays only, except,
Again,
any
unless it's-
deviations on hours or days.
needs to be
we
approved.
would Advance and
I
improve.
I think if you could even leave it as working hours, and you just say, work shall occur between the hours of 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., Monday through Friday,
Excluding holidays.
excluding holidays.
Mhm.
Simple. You don't have to get
And then
crazy
everything else is a deviation.
That's it.
Yep, good. .53, the last sentence. We're approving with Public Works now. We've dropped the D and the Highway Department, moved
Should
on to
be-
Public Works.
Tree warden, shouldn't it? Or do you want it to be highway superintendent?
What do you want? I'm still reading 53.
53.
Damaged trees.
And replacing them with the minimum size tree?
Well,
Tree warden.
if the superintendent authorized removal, does that anticipate replacement? Because that sounds like removal. Damage would be replaced. And a removal's been authorized, is that not a removal? Not meant a rip and replace? I don't know.
Well, it may have to be authorized to be removed for the job
And then replaced?
and then replaced.
Okay, got it. That's what that's meant to
Yeah, and it
say.
even
Yeah,
talks.
because
yeah.
if it's a sewer, if a sewer or water is
Sure.
run under now a big tree, so it obviously it needs to come down for the work. So that's where the authorization to removal.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
It's gotta, if it's a public shade tree, it's still gotta go through the tree warden.
correct.
Well, and
So I
it
think
says
both of
it's,
those are tree
the
warden.
town's approved tree replacing plan,
Yep.
which is sought by the tree warden.
Yep.
So both of those updated to be tree warden? Or just
Well, I
the
think
replanting?
authorized removal, because you're going to say it needs to get removed for that work to be done as a superintendent.
Correct, but he's not gonna, the superintendent is not the one
Authorizing
authorizing
the
what
replacement.
tree, the placement
sure.
of the tree, and he's not overseeing that plan, but the tree warden is
Right.
currently
So
one of the
replacing
same,
in
but
accordance
not always.
with the minimum caliper approved by the tree warden
Okay.
So what
in
happens-
conjunction with
The replay
Public
program.
Works, because you're going to want to make sure water, wastewater, it doesn't go in the wrong place.
What happens
But
when
the replanting plan should cover that.
the tree warden and the superintendent disagree on the disposition of the tree? Then what?
I want to watch that
Me
fight.
too.
Yeah, yeah.
That's going to be an interesting argument. Maybe a quiet one.
Can we go back to 48, old 47, new 48?
Dig
Um,
safe?
Yep. Because the water wastewater is not a dig safe subscriber yet, I think we need to add in there that water wastewater has to be contacted also for marking out their services.
How does that differ from 49?
Well, because they're calling dig safe. So you jump from 47 to 53. That was still going in line.
No, that's okay. I don't mind. I'm just, so 48 to 49. Dig safe to existing
Sure.
utilities.
Yeah, that's the.
Isn't existing
water,
utilities cover
wastewater.
your wastewater water?
Yep. Yep.
So
good.
we have to do dig safe as a standard.
Correct.
You also have to make sure all
You have to-
utilities have been handled,
Yep.
whether they're
Should-
dig safe or not.
Okay.
Should we be more explicit in 49 to specifically call out Erving water and wastewater? As
Yeah,
these two
because somebody may
utilities?
turn around and say,
Yes.
"Well, I did dig safe, so that's all
Yeah,
the utilities,"
that's what I'm
not
saying.
realizing
they need
that
to be
we-
called out somewhere.
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
here.
no,
So
I
it would
agree
be in
with you.
49.
No, it's a good point.
With all
So-
utilities,
Inclusive of-
including, yeah, Irving water, wastewater.
Okay.
Okay. There's 51 missing a title,
Mhm.
It
and
is.
44, and 40. Anyway, we'll go back to that.
What did we
not
do for
later,
our
but-
first 3 reads?
I don't know. There wasn't enough blue,
taking a
so we
month
couldn't
off
see
helped.
it.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe it did. Yikes. I'm not trying to figure those out tonight, but just a thought as we work on this offline to bring it back for another read. Looks like we have titles some places and not all. How many more? We get 70.
It's a
We're
lot.
getting there. They go quicker.
I was reading through the town of city of Greenfield. Theirs only has 54 sections. Just saying.
Are they longer?
No,
Sections?
they're not.
Oh. Is that an achievement? Or?
He made a note in was 58 now 59. We had language in there that said 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. would be a time of quiet. But then in our road work section, we said it was allowed. They could do the work until 3 p.m. So he's like, I'm not sure why you would say the
7
work could go
p.m..
to 3 p.m. but they can make extra noise after the work's done until stuff. So
Can't do any work, but can stand out there and yell for 4 hours.
So he suggested to have
in
those
case we
two
extend
things
it.
align.
Yeah.
So that's what that edit's
Oh,
about,
goodness. Hmm.
which was a fair point.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know if it's the only one, but skipping down to 66. If you go down into the subsections, E still references DPW.
Oh, that DPW is referring to
Mass.
Mass DPW.
So it should be called
Yeah.
out though.
I assume that's like Mass DOT, DPW construction standards?
Correct.
Quote
Something
unquote.
like that, yeah.
There's another reference to that, to construction standards somewhere else up higher in the
Yep.
beginning.
You just
Probably
be clear
need to
that
double
it's,
check that it's
it's
MassDOT.
not our, it's
Yeah.
MassDOT's.
We'll
That
double
one
check
might
'em.
be specific, but there is another reference at least. One. So is Mass Highway Department, MHD, a specific reference to? It's not Mass DOT?
Mass DOT is the
Oversight?
It's
full
the,
Department of
Yeah,
Transportation.
everything.
MHD is the sub of it?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, DOT includes aeronautics, RMV.
Okay. So they do have a
Mass
separate
Transit.
spec that's under MHD? Okay.
RMV, all of it.
All of it.
There are multiple references, just make sure I catch them all.
So something like 67, wouldn't that be a continuation, maybe call that F, not its own new number? Because it's referencing
Yeah.
this section.
Okay.
I have a feeling some of the ones without titles are actually subs of the
of
one
the
above, not
The one
actual
above.
new
Yeah.
sections.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll get down to 60.
Yeah,
Seven.
we might, if there's, 8, 10 of them like that.
I'm glad your brain's still working to pick up on that. Mine,
It's all right. We're almost there because, yeah,
I know.
can only do so much of these in one night.
69 is the superintendent.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And 68 is gravel, borrow, or process gravel for sub-base. Is that all caps? And is sub-base really one word?
Yes. But I don't know that it needs to be kept.
I don't need an answer tonight. Either.
I will fix that.
Yep, it is all one word.
Okay. Help me with my acronyms. AAB reg?
Which one are you on?
74. ADA and AAB.
AAB is the Architectural Access Board.
I thought I used to be good at acronyms, but you. You have them all in
But
your
we should spell that out.
glossary. It might be up there in the glossary. I didn't scroll back. It's too far
Which
away
one
now.
22. I'll scroll.
I think 72 under pavement restoration is supposed to be cold planing and not cold planning. And first sentence, pavement restoration shall consist of cold planing.
AAB is spelled out in the definitions.
Okay.
What number are you on?
Cold planing and planning?
72, pavement restoration.
There's only one N, so it is planing, isn't it? Or am I missing
Yeah.
where you're referencing?
No, it's cold planing, so it'd be not
Yeah.
cold planning.
Isn't planning,
Planning
two
would
N's?
be 2 N's in that case.
Planing is one N. Planning is two.
Okay, no, I'm sorry, I was thinking that there was an I in there. Sorry.
72.
Oh, okay. Got it. In the first sentence, right?
Yep.
Okay. I was thinking there was extra N's.
No. Nope, thought we were missing it.
We're going through this to the nth degree. I think that's the problem. And then we have, for those that are onto the appendix, the question about where the fees go. Thought we talked about this at length. Did we not make a decision
No.
about whether it should pay for the cost of going out and doing those things? I remember discussing it.
So,
Revolving it funds it. Right? In general, it's free cash next year.
I think that was a question. I thought we had a conversation about this, that it was to go not into the general, that it was to go into, to pay for the inspections, pay for the time out of this.
That was what you all contemplated. I
Yeah.
did ask the town accountant, who encouraged us to not create another revolving account.
Because of the overhead in managing it?
And for how
How little?
infrequent this is used. We're putting a lot of
That's
work
a
into it, which is
reasonable-
great, but
Well, it's reasonable, though.
yeah.
I mean, if you're only putting a few dollars in there twice a
Yeah.
year,
What's the, yeah.
the overhead to
What
have
access are
separated
you
that?
really getting, to,
Is it worth it?
$200?
Her point, not to speak for her, but her point that I understood was, if this is something that in the future became quite frequent, and it really was hard to budget in advance to anticipate that potential, then we could make that move at town meeting and ask the voters to create the necessary funds. But in the beginning, we could keep it the way it is, change the fees, put the protocols into place, and monitor.
General fund it is.
Does that work for now?
Sounds good. If you find there's a lot of them, we'll revisit.
All right?
Yep.
Okay.
And
Okay,
that
we got-
wouldn't take a change of the regulations. That would just be a town meeting process that we go through.
Right, because it doesn't specify where here.
Correct.
That was an internal question.
Correct.
Okay. All right, we got lots of edits and adjustments, and
Okay, I'm gonna make all of those.
so we'll accept everything that we didn't challenge, change, or disagree with, and then get a fresh red line with just tonight's changes.
So accept everything else you saw in there, and then make
That we
all the
didn't
new edits.
challenge, yeah.
And you
we
want to
didn't
see that
change.
clean copy.
Just tonight's edits.
Yep.
Clean to, plus tonight's edits, right?
Got it.
Clean from before tonight, I guess. whatever.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah.
All right.
Make sense?
I will get it
Okay.
done.
And you're good with all the insurance stuff? That's
For the
pretty
7th
general
read,
with
is that what you
everything.
said?
I feel like we took the
Oh,
insurance.
you said July 7th. I thought you wanted 7
23rd's
more
already
readings
filling
before
up,
the
so I
7th.
think you need to,
What's that?
I feel like we took that from the statute.
I was to say, that's probably what we use on everything else, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you,
Oh,
sir.
I forgot to mention, he put in that whole section, I think it was in 55, not to go back, but there was one about exercising the bond piece. He thought that was really important, that he gave us kudos for claiming that they needed to provide us with a bond, but we didn't put anywhere in there what we were going to do with it if we needed
Not
it.
55. Where is it?
It was back in the 50s. It's all in blue. The whole section is blue, something he added.
Something he added.
Yeah.
40
claim
to
on
5?
performance bond?
Thank you.
45.
That's it. 45.
45.
Sorry.
Yep,
I was really off.
There was a 5 in there.
there was a 5. It's only one. So,
So anyhow, that was in response to us putting in the bond requirements.
oh, so we have a requirement, but then he said you have no way to exercise it.
Yeah.
So he added that to exercise
He
it.
added this to exercise what we had
I
already
don't
put in
think
there.
we disliked anything about that except it's town or highway or not highway or super or not
So
super.
we're keeping that contribution, and I'm just making those edits.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay. All right. I meant to
Yes.
call it out when you were going there, and I don't know why I didn't.
it's okay. Not to go back, but we did go back. It's okay though.
Okay, now we can move on.
All right. Good with road opening for tonight?
Yes,
Tonight.
thank you.
Yes? Okay, thank you. We will carry it to a future meeting. I don't know which one yet. Scott.
When Scott's still here. Please.
Sounds like June 23rd.
I thought it was June 30th. You sounded peaked over there. All right. So, given it is 8:59,
I was going to say,
and our water
department.
superintendent is left for the evening, I see, because I know we covered a couple of those items earlier, but so I'd say we pass over that one. Does that
Pass over water.
make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Review and vote to establish the museum committee. Again, do you guys want to review it? I know we talked about wanting to potentially establish it before the special, but we will have a meeting before the special still. So, do you want to prioritize that as something we want to hopefully review and finalize on the 23rd?
Yeah, I'd like to read it one more time. I think we have membership that's already
substantive.
waiting
We
for
had
it. We
almost
still have it
everything.
before the July 1 effective date of when
Absolutely.
people
What
would be
I-
appointed.
What I need to know from you all, Bets has been working diligently with all the individuals who want to be reappointed to their boards and commissions, and that list is going to be at your 23rd meeting.
Mm-hmm.
For this committee, if it hasn't been established yet, are you wanting us to come also with a recommendation for appointments to that committee, or are you holding that till July?
I'm okay with doing it on the 23rd as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're planning to do this, so it's not like that's unsure, so no
Just
reason.
want a little more time to
Proposed
read that
members.
proposal.
Sure, if there's interested people can put
To
in
get
their
it started.
requests
Okay.
now, yeah, sure.
Do it all, and we'll approve the,
Potentially do it all in the same night,
approve
why
it,
not?
establish,
That's fine.
and fill it
Okay.
all in one
Wouldn't be
night.
the first time.
Yeah,
Alright,
That
just
sounds
wanted to be clear.
efficient to me.
yeah.
Like it.
Do it.
If you push it out far enough, you have to be efficient at the end.
You saying delay everything to the last minute will be quicker?
Yes, yeah.
Hasn't worked so far in my life, but
No,
I'll
it
keep
is
trying.
not.
So you're
No.
calling a meeting for the 30th, is what I'm hearing.
Yep.
No, 23rd. So far, we'll see. We've got a lot of things to do for year end, and it's
Yes, we
approaching
do.
quickly. All right, so pass over that one. Review of the modular office procurement for public works.
So we were just hoping for a first read.
Okay, sounds perfect.
So there's a lot in here. We haven't done this type of a procurement before.
Okay,
Chapter 149, which is typically your construction law, does address modular offices, which obviously come largely pre-built somewhere off-site, delivered to site, and then either configured or dropped in place on the foundation. They then have to be connected to utilities. So there is a subsection within Chapter 149 that does speak to how you procure a modular office, and you use an RFP approach like we would have for competitive services or like the sale of a building. That's the last time you've used an RFP, so you can do it for this purpose only. So when you review this, Section 2, it's a very detailed purchase description section. That's how the law requires you to refer to it as. In the sections that talk about all the required documents, there are several that the statute requires that it wouldn't require for a different procurement. So those are in there. And your evaluative criteria, just like you did for an RFP in the past, that's going to be in attachment A. So those are the areas to focus on. And then if there's any concerns or questions that Glenn and I can answer, just let us know.
okay. Carry it to the 23rd. Did I cover everything except review of the Director of Senior Services
Yes.
preliminary screening? I think I did. All
You
right.
guys are efficient.
Review of review of the Director of Senior Services preliminary screening committee recommendation.
So I need some assistance and some guidance. So I was hoping for a quick conversation with the three of you about how you'd like to proceed with your search. And so I'll give you the overview of where we are. The committee's been meeting for well over a month. You had 7 applicants in your pool. The committee worked and refined that list to 5 that they invited for interviews. They put a lot of effort into crafting interview questions that they thought really spoke to the priorities of the town and the needs of the town, and invited 5 members, 4 elected to participate in that process. At the conclusion of their preliminary interviews, there was a lot of deliberation, and the committee's end recommendation was to send forth all 4. And so I wanted to check in with the 3 of you around how you would like to receive those candidates. If the board is willing and able to interview 4 candidates, or if you would want to review those materials yourself and you conduct your own reviews and reconsider that pool.
Four seems like a lot. This is my own, typically 2 or 3 out of a
I feel
pool.
like we always hope for 3 and
We hope
rarely
for
have
3,
it.
usually get 1 or 2, but, are ecstatic when we get to 3. 4 is a lot to pull into a public, and so I don't know if there's a way to.
But we don't have to interview all of them just because they're put forward.
True.
Right.
So,
that's
I
the-
mean, to your,
Yeah, I don't think I would
us
put,
reviewing them and then determining, doesn't mean we have to, that doesn't mean that we'll put everyone through the interview. I mean, I understand brought to us, but, right? Or are you even thinking for us to review 4 is a lot? I mean, for us to put 4 through the full process, which is at least, 1 interview, if not more, for each one, that's a lot, I agree. But for us to see 4 and decide if we choose to bring 4 for interview or not, isn't as full a process, right? Just as a possibility.
and I'm
to your
also
point, I don't know.
playing devil's advocate that typically your screening committees are doing that, and they get to do that in executive session.
Absolutely.
Whereas we would be screening these candidates and eliminating and not offering, or potentially not offering interviews in public. It's a little different.
Absolutely.
And so,
There's a
if,
reason
you
there's
know,
screening.
and that's why we do a screening committee, and that's why we allow that, so that only those that are felt to be actual nominees that would be going through the full process come forward. So just throwing that out there as, it's as another wrinkle into that. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You look like you've got some.
I thought, and I know time is a consideration for everybody, as well as the transition of one department head to another and crossover, but I am leaning towards putting it back to the committee and asking for 3. I know it's hard work, I know it's difficult, but I think we're very fortunate to have 4 that they feel qualified to put forward. We've had other hiring committees that have struck out, but
Were you there for the deliberation? or-
I was not because of scheduling conflicts,
Understood.
and after I couldn't make one, I felt like it wasn't fair and balanced if I was there for others. So out of the several, there was one that I could have made, and I felt like that would create a disparity.
We've done the
in
same
process.
thing before, where if somebody on
Yeah.
the committee couldn't be to all of them, they didn't go to any of them. So it's
I
happened.
more meant the deliberation part of it than the interviews. So
And that also I couldn't.
no, I
participate in.
understood. Maybe along that same vein, does it make sense to have you go back, as the board representative, if you're amenable to it, and basically kind of bring that back, that we're looking for the best, 2 or 3. I think, to your point, 4 seems like a lot.
Mhm.
We don't have a choice if we don't have at least 2. So
Yeah,
I think
no,
2 or 3
I'll
makes sense. But going back and saying, like, here's where we're looking for the screening committee to land, and maybe hearing some of that deliberation, right? Because you weren't there to hear it, right? That's why I asked, really, to say, okay, well, how did you get to 4, and maybe you can help guide them on how to
Right.
get to, and how they might work their way
No,
through that.
I'm absolutely willing to take that back to them and be a part of that, to understand, so that when we do come back, I can provide some context to it.
Yeah.
And
I mean, if you,
I mean, to me, it makes more sense, and it's fair for, us to pontificate. What my first suggestion might sound like is like, no, give us 2 or give us 3.
right,
One of us should go in the trenches, and in that case, it's me, because it's my suggestion, and I was the liaison or the representative to begin with. So, yes,
Well,
that
and-
responsibility falls on me.
And I'll,
if you sit through that and you come back with us and say, no, I agree with them, it should be 4, then I think, I'll take that recommendation along with the screening committee to say, you sat through enough of it to understand where they're coming from and why that is the right answer. And if we have to do 4, then I'm up for doing 4 if that's the right thing to do. But if some direction and guidance on different ways to look at that and get it to a smaller pool that makes sense is successful with your help, I think that's also good. And that may be, to your point about time, that may actually be more expeditious than us trying to have 4. Are we open to meeting? So, I mean, I think, is that where we are?
That's where I am. I appreciate the offer to go, just because you weren't able to go to it, at least sit through the deliberation piece and say, how do we, where are we at? I have to imagine, how many were on this committee? I can't remember now. Was it 6, 7?
started
8,
at
9?
It was a big one.
6, 7.
It was a big
And
one,
then-
and this is
it
that
got down to
fear of
5.
when we get with these larger,
Yeah.
committees,
Right.
the opinions can vary, and therefore you do get a lot of, I'm sure all of these 4 have great attributes, and they're all a little bit different, and they all have their, their pieces that make them the good candidate in a few of the committee members' minds. So therefore, that's that imbalance of like, they're all good in their own way, and they're all a little bit different, and they don't want to say no to anybody.
So
Here's all of them, and
So maybe you can help them define different rails to say, okay, we'll keep within this to get down to a better pool, a better aligned pool to what we're trying to get to. Does, what was I going to say about that? So I think we ended up with 5 voting and 2 ex officio. And you weren't, one of them wasn't part of the deliberation, obviously, because you just said you weren't. So, but still, a lot of. I can only imagine if it was 7, if that would be worse or better. But challenging, it's always challenging.
Right.
So that'll be dependent on your time, when you can get them together, right, to do it. And then, depending on when that is, once we have a recommendation, I'm open to finding a time slot specific to that. Even if it's a short meeting to review them and plan interviews, and then maybe a separate meeting for the interviews. Are you guys?
yeah. I mean, typically you're gonna, schedule an hour per interview. If it's 40 to 50 minutes with a pause in between.
I mean, I guess I don't want to be preemptive, but if we only have 2 applicants or 3 applicants that come through, are we going to be interviewing them all without just, is that an assumption? Should we just plan and schedule around doing it all in one night? I say all. Maybe I shouldn't say all. Never mind. I don't think that's a good idea.
Let's wait on that. Let's see what
Yeah.
comes back.
So once we have a recommendation, we'll come together with a meeting to review materials and work on questions, and then plan scheduling for actual interviews.
And by recommendation, it's usually, either here they are in a ranking order of how we would, all of our choices, or there is no ranking and they're all equally, but there's no, like, you do your own work on why, as opposed to,
Well, and with ranking, I always feel like, at least what I recall us historically getting, is there's either like one standout in a group that the committee strongly felt is a solo standout,
or all.
or it's all of them
Right.
for different reasons, not 1, 2, 3, 4. It's
Correct,
either
but
like
I-
1
what I'm-
and 2 and 2.
What I'm
Or
saying is, if it's all, it's not all because candidate 1 does this really well, and candidate 2 does this really well, and candidate, that is
right.
not
That's
something.
not their role.
That's not the role. The role is either, here's the recommendation of we have one standout, or we have a number of highly qualified that we need you to make the decision on. And that's the recommendation that they formally write up and send to us.
Okay.
So it's a pool,
Yeah,
or it's a pool with
Get
one.
that going?
correct.
One recommended
Right,
in that pool.
yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
And 3 or less. 2 or 3. I mean, I don't want to go from 4 to 1. That
No,
would
I
not
don't want to
make
go from
sense.
4 to 1.
So 2 or 3.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything else? All right. Make a motion to adjourn at 9:14.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.